Hey, y'all. Oh, please, 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 please. We are back. Another Wednesday night unleashed. And truth be told, I got tired of talking to myself. I got tired of interviewing myself for the past, 33 weeks? Now we're on week number 34. And I went, you know what? Maybe it's time to start inviting some pals onto the show just to kind of change it up a bit. So, in a little bit here, we're going to have a very special guest, Rik Fox. And he's a legendary guy, actually, going back to the 70s New York glam scene all the way to the Hollywood scene. I kind of want to find out how he got from New York to Hollywood. And he's done all kinds of cool stuff in his life. You might have even seen him in cameo in Wayne's World there. So tonight, get your questions ready for Rik Fox. He's going to be here in about 30 minutes, and we're going to shoot the poop for as long as he can hang out, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Next week, Joel Hoekstra is coming on the show. It's going to be a guitar nerd night. So changing things up here a little bit on the Unleashed show. But for the most part, it remains the same. It's an AMA. Ask me anything you want. It can be about my 25 years playing guitar for Stephen Pearcy, the voice of Rat. Or it could be about my early life. It could be about your early life. It could be about history. It could be about present times, future times. My apartment here is from the future. It's 300 years into the future, just like Buck Rogers' show. AI helped me with that. But I tell you guys,
yeah, I got my beer goggles on now.
I got my beer goggles on, so I'm going to jump in the chat and say hello to everybody. Got my super carrot Marsha B first on deck tonight. She can't wait. She can't wait for the Unleashed tonight. And Dale Groot, he was at the Fright Bite, as was Marsha last night. I love when the Fright Biters are here every Tuesday at 6. I'll go over some of the highlights from Fright Bite later on in the show. But thank you to all that come to all my shows and watch all my videos and all that. Dotson 200 SX. Hello, good evening to all. And we got Stony. What up, y'all? We missed Stony last night at the Fright Bite, but he did watch the replay and he promoted it, and I appreciate that. And just like Stony, you can go to the live section of this Unleashed channel. You can watch all the old Fright Bites. You can watch the past Unleashed episodes where I interview me and all my split personalities for 3 to 4 hours, and it's entertaining. We got Dotson saying, I feel like winning the Powerball tonight. Well, we've had a lot of winners on the Fright Bite with the Wheel of Misfortune. I had sent out like 4 prizes this week that's going to be getting to our fans' mailboxes by Thursday and Friday, and now I have another one from last night that I got to send out too. So we give out some cool prizes, posters and t-shirts and cool stuff like that. About to order a bunch of Fright Bite merch, as well as some new pick sets for me for the live shows and everything. So that'll be cool. Let me see here. We got Frank. Thanks for a great night in Rhode Island. Love catching up with you and meeting the guys. Thanks, brother. Yeah, Frank. I'm sorry. I saw Frank like amidst the sound check time when I was kind of running around trying to like get some stuff organized. I got to say hey and take a picture with him, but I would have liked to talked with him longer than I did. I apologize for that, Frank, but I'm glad that you got to come out to the show. And which show is he talking about? That was Bally's, right? He ended up coming to Bally's on Saturday. The night before, we played in Connecticut at the Ridgefield Theater. And I'm going to be editing a really awesome road vlog for that concert that first night, and I'm going to do a separate one for the following night for Bally's. But it was a great time. We flew into LaGuardia, and all the band members were getting in at various times. Steven was getting in the latest, so we killed some time in downtown Manhattan and took some video. So there's all kinds of cool stuff you're going to see, funny stuff. I'll give a little glimpse of that tonight because I know Rick's from New York and he'll probably get a laugh from some of my footage we took from Times Square. And after, if you guys remember last week, I had Marsha had donated to my gambling fund for Bally's. And I'm happy to report that my strategy, this is a terrible picture of me, my strategy on the Ultimate X Poker paid off once again. So I definitely going to have to throw a gift back to Marsha because we turned her $20 that she gave and I put in $20. We turned that into $160, everybody. $160. Now, what I will say, the most important thing when you're using my strategy is when you first get any kind of significant kind of win like that, you know, something like over $150, I recommend cashing the hell out right away. Because if you just let it ride, eventually the house always wins. But if you missed last week's show, I kind of explained my strategy with the Ultimate X Poker, which is the only real poker machines I'm willing to play video wise. I won't do the ones that are just one hand. I mean, even though you could probably sit there and not lose a lot of money playing the one hand at a time, I got to do the 10 hand multi-reel. That's how I roll. I max bet. I play like a nickel or a quarter machine. Obviously, on a quarter machine, you're going to win more. Earlier this month, I used my strategy and I got onto a quarter machine and I won over $500. Now, one thing that's very important is when to employ my strategy, my gambling strategy. And that is not early in the morning or the afternoon or the early evening. It's late, like after the place has had a concert, like we played, like at Bally's, like when the Stephen Pearcy concert's over and people have already been in there gambling all night and on all the machines. Then I know they're ready to blow like a volcano. And that's when I roll out after most of the people gone home and it's kind of starting to get a little mellow where I can actually get on a machine. I'll walk down there. I don't intend to spend more than $100 at the most. I mean, that's what I was willing to lose anyways. So went over to the machine. I had Marsha's money in mine. I ended up putting like a 50 into there. The machine was kind of cold. I mean, I did notice it was a corner machine. I kind of like grabbing those. I feel like people do play the corner machines a lot. And I also feel like the casino will have the corner ones win a little more. They might factor that into their programming of the odds and such. There was a cigarette. There was an ashtray there. There was an ashtray sitting there. And that led me to believe somebody was stressing out on like gambling. So I was like, maybe that's a good spot. So I went for that one. It seemed a little cold at first. I wasn't really seeing much for the first 5-6 spins. Oh, I should also mention that Bailey and Ariel that you see at the Fright Bite and the Unleashed shows, the wonderful couple that sent me all the Bite Down On It shirts and jewelry and glasses and all that good stuff. They came to these shows. So they were actually witness to me employing my poker strategy. So they filmed some of it. They actually took that photo that I posted there. But back to the story. About 5 spins went down, wasn't seeing much. And then sure enough, I hit on the $160 win. Basically, when you're max betting like that and you have all those extra hands, I mean, as soon as you get a pretty decent hand on the flop, you're going to hit something really good up above. And I usually will hit like a 4 of a kind is pretty typical. Like say I got like a pair or 3 of a kind on the flop, I'm probably going to hit a 4 of a kind. And then if it gets like a kicker of like a 1, 2, 3, or 4, you're going to get even more. So that's typically what happens. As I said earlier, if you're just playing a nickel machine, you're probably not going to win a ton off it. Quarter machines, you start to step up. You can get to like the $500 wins, but I'd say on a nickel one, you could get like $100 to $300 extra. And I just kind of grift off those machines. I'm not really a gambler. I'm out there to make money, not spend money for the most part. But you guys you donate to the show, and I got to put the funds where you'd say to put them. If you say put them to the tuna fund, I buy tuna for the cats. If you say put it to the weed fund, son, then I got to put it to the weed fund. And if you say put it to the gambling son fund, I said that wrong, didn't I? If you put it to the gambling fund, son, then I would do that. And that's what I did. So thank you, Marsha, for having faith. I will be sending a thank you gift your way. I promise. I promise.
His homeboys. Hey, bud, let's party.
Okay, what time is it? I want to stay on schedule. Let me get back in the chat here. So I want you guys to start thinking about stuff to ask Rik Fox. You know, he spent a little bit of time in WASP. He played in Steeler with Yngwie Malmsteen. He was a big part of the 80s scene. He was like the perfect age to be in Hollywood at the time. But even his early days on the East Coast are pretty interesting. He actually dated Peter Criss's sister from Peter Criss of Kiss fame. And he was there at the beginning of Kiss's career. So I definitely want to start at the beginning of his life. I mean, the dude has had like a 50-year career. You know, he's like you see here, him and Piercy are the same age. They're both 70, man. They're exactly the same age. So legendary guys. And as I said, I got to meet Rik. I think 2024, he was able to make it to one of the shows that we were playing. And he came up on stage. I'll show a picture of that. Here, we're high-fiving there. Yeah. And it was pretty cool. I know he came up and did You Think You're Tough, and he was excited to come out and play, and we're super glad to have him up. Matt Thorne has some cool things he's said about Rik, because Matt's a little bit younger than Rik, and he just remembers him from the Hollywood scene and what a cool bass player he was. I'm really sought after at the time. He kind of had that look that was kind of between like a Blackie Lawless and a Nikki Sixx, somewhere in between there. So I definitely want to ask him what it was like to be able to, I don't know, tear it up on the Sunset Strip at that time. I mean, I'm 53, so when he was doing all this stuff, I was just a kid that's standing outside the window wondering what it'd be like to be all grown up and be able to go into a place like that and party. You know, I'm like, I was old enough to remember the music and MTV and the scene, but I wasn't old enough to be really up there partaking in it. So it's fun to vicariously live through these guys that were actually there, including his early days in CBGBs. And I'm sure he knows all about the New York Dolls and all that. So definitely get some questions ready for this, and we will get him asked for Rik. He's going to come on at in about 15 minutes. I'm going to be pulling him onto the show. So Spicoli is here now, guys. Spicoli was in a car accident last night, dude.
I know that, dude.
Bad. We're glad you survived, Spicoli. He did. He was in a car accident. I don't have all the details. I don't know if it was his fault or somebody else's fault, but he definitely sustained some injuries. If I'm not mistaken, he broke his leg and I think fractured a rib. So it was a serious situation. It sounded really traumatic. Again, I was happy to hear from him that he's okay. He still managed to watch some of the Fright Bites, so that was flattering. He sent me a picture. It's a little too graphic to share tonight, but his leg was a mess. So definitely wish a speedy recovery to our homie Spicoli here.
What are you people? On dope? I know that, dude. Hey, bud, let's party.
He's going to need a lot of medicinal cannabis to recover from this. Okay. Sup, brother Rik Fox. He's excited to talk to Rik tonight. And we got JC in the house. Hey, buddy. How you doing? I'm doing quite well. Yesterday was, of course, the Fright Bite. And I had to throw together a new mission. It had been a minute since we did a mission. And Dahlia and I had hinted that Edgar, the merman, not the mermidget that we thought he originally was, but the merman that escaped from Dr. Von Brainscan's secret laboratory, we ended up kind of making friends with the guy, the Count, that is, and Dahlia. And Agent Skunk, who's also part of the team now, was able to pinpoint Crozar's secret underwater base, where he had a new evil device, which was the password annihilator. And the password annihilator was going to allow Crozar to get all of our passwords for our accounts and our bank accounts and everything. And that would have been awful. And so just in the nick of time, Dahlia and Edgar destroyed that password annihilator. In fact, I'm going to show you guys the mission right now, since it's under a minute, and you can enjoy it for yourself.
Reach my secret underwater base in time. I've already begun the upload process.
Dahlia, there isn't much time. Get to the beach and help Edgar plant the explosives. Godspeed. Oh.
Just wanted to say how awesome it is working with you and how stoked I am to be part of the team. Do you have any more Temptation Shrimpy Shrimp treats at the studio?
I almost missed the money shot there at the end. Oh, vey. Well, if you want to watch the uncensored version, you can watch the whole episode of Fright Bite number 32. That's the Too Hot for TV version, but that there's the real version, the 60-second one. But lots of good times doing this show. So I got all that together yesterday, plus some other fun surprises. So if you weren't able to watch Fright Bite last night, go watch the rerun. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, guys, or I'll blow us all up. This was my makeshift explosive for Edgar to plant. I really had no time. I had to do a full A-Team meets MacGyver thing to do the show. I was just looking for things around here that I could use for props. And I had this clock that doesn't work. It's right 2 times a day, believe it or not. I had a guitar pickup. I had the tubes that I send the posters out in, the Fright Bite posters, and I had another tinfoil spool. And it kind of got the point across as being an explosive. I guess it kind of worked. I mean, I'm a 70s kid, so you can make any kind of prop with tinfoil. I remember when Star Wars came out, that's how we made lightsabers back then in the 70s. We would just take a big cardboard spool from a gift wrapping or something like that, and then we just wrap it in tinfoil, and those were all of a sudden our you know what I'm trying to say. Hey, Psychedelic River Chicken's here tonight, and he's got a really sweet super chat for me. Brother, great Fright Bite last night. Definitely looking forward to Rik Fox on the show. Well, thanks so much. I appreciate all the support you guys are giving to the channel. We're growing by leaps and bounds, and just getting started really now that the channel's got a little bit of an audience and people are actually watching it. Now I could do the fun stuff. I want to start doing some playthroughs of some of the new Stephen Pearsey songs that are coming out as the album comes out. And just as these awesome concerts unfold, put out more of these road vlogs and stuff like that. I plan on staying up late tonight. I really want to get this new one out by tomorrow. You guys are going to love it. Joel's kicking more butt by the show, and the crowd is definitely peaking. They're just loving it, and we just need to get out there and play more. That's the bottom line. All right, let me get back in here. How much time we got? Still got about 10 minutes till we're going to bring Rick in. Whew, we got Skylar saying hello to Skylar. We got Jerome Davis, the Leo. Jerome was there last night. That's Siobhan O'Rains, Fashion Police. He's the Fashion Police. He's her biggest fan with all of her outfits. That's right. Dahlia Dark also portrays Siobhan O'Rain, which does the Boo TV weather and the news on the Fright Bite, which is a lot of fun. And Psychedelic saying, "What's up from Savannah? Y'all love the live hang." Yeah, it's pretty cool, whatever we're doing, whether it's Fright Bite or the Wednesday night shows, that when you guys get into this chat and start talking and I read your stuff, you're on the show forever. It's you're immortalized, as the count would like to say. So that makes it special. And I'm super stoked when you guys come back every week to be a part of it. Good shot, Jansen. Unleashed. Oh, yeah. That's right. Should I throw a sexy times? I can, if I can find it.
Sexy times.
That's right. Don't have any pretty princesses here tonight. Only got rotten son of a bitches. We do have David Lee Roth screams. You have butt bongos if you'd like. If you want Hot for Teacher, play it on your butt. I could do that tonight. Just let me know. All right. We already read that one. Spicoli is saying, "Hey, Marsha, can I borrow $10 for the weed?" Fired up. Yeah, man, that was so Spicoli, you got to get in the chat and tell us what the heck happened. And, was this involving another vehicle? Like, are the other people okay? And we also want to know whose fault it was, son. Tell us. Jojo's here. Sup, everyone. Sup, Jojo. Welcome back. Spicoli 420. Rik was in WASP, dude. Yeah, he was. We're going to talk to him about that. I could see he showed up. I might have to bring him in a little early because I don't want to keep him waiting too long. I will read Frank's question here. He's saying, "You guys sounded really good at Bally's. My friend said adding in Joel really put you guys on another level." I'm going to have to agree with that, Frank. I mean, to have a performer like Joel join the band who's just, if you guys aren't familiar, he's had some super huge gigs. He, of course, played for Cher. He played for Night Ranger. He played for Whitesnake. He's in the East Coast version of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. So he's always doing rad stuff. And, of course, Brandon Gibbs, which is his acoustic deal that he does. He's a top shredder, super funny guy, super solid, 100% professional. And like Frank said, he's just taking the shows to a whole nother level. Like we're definitely lucky that he's slumming it with us, I guess you would say. Anyways, let me get our pal Rik in here because I saw him. Here he is. Rik, what's up, man? I don't see your camera. Do you
What's up there, Eric?
Well, not much.
You're cutting in and out.
I'm cutting in and out.
Yeah, whenever you talk to us, it's
well, maybe try redoing your computer because I'm not seeing your camera at all.
It's plugged in.
Hello. Now you muted yourself. You're kind of muted on there. I would say go back into StreamYard and test all your settings. Like maybe I'll move you out of here, and then I don't want to permanently do that, but maybe you can leave and then just test your settings inside the settings area. Like make sure your camera's on and it recognizes it. Or do a restart, perhaps. Oh, there we go. I see you. There he is. Now you just have to unmute your mic. That's it. It's like a little button. I think it's around your picture. It's like a little picture of a microphone on there. I know it's on your end or whatever. He's looking for it. It's I think it's on the bottom. Like I know for your screen looks a little different, but It should be on like a settings or control panel. It'll show a little. There we go. I think I hear something.
I had to hit the button that says allow.
Okay. There you go. We got it. We got it.
Oh, there we are.
How's this? Yeah, new technology sucks, huh? As we like age, it's
I'm a
like keeping
dinosaur,
up with
man.
it.
My late wife was the IT tech, so she handled all of that. And then when she went home, that left me to kind of figure things out on my own. I don't know. I don't have anybody I can trust say techno who knows how to come in and just fix stuff.
I wish our pets knew how to do that. Because
our cats.
That's all I'm left with. Like I don't even have any friends anymore. I'm just like I just have my cats. And that's it. And yeah, I'm trying to keep up with technology. Condolences to you. That was super sad. I mean, I was friends with your wife on Facebook and everything, and that was definitely a bummer. And she
had a lot of friends, So yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So
absolutely. Well, I'm super stoked, Rik, to have you on. I let everybody know earlier that not only do we know each other, but we got to rock on stage together.
It is.
And got to play live with the Stephen Piercy band.
The Ferentino high five.
That's right. I have another shot here too. Oh yeah, this one. Here we go.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the money shot. I can close my eyes and still remember that moment.
It was like kind of like Top Gun, right? We did like a over and under.
Yeah. Kind of feel the need for speed kind of thing.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Was funny, not ha funny, but ironically funny. I never got a chance to do the sound check with you guys. I talked to Matt about it, and he says, "Yeah, do the sound check, so at least we can feel each other out." And he said the last time we did, "You Think You're Tough," we didn't remember it. We had a couple of hiccups. So he goes, "So I hope we remember it tonight."
Right. Well, at least you had Matt to sound check the bass for you. I mean, for the most part, you were in good hands there.
Yeah, but I came on cold. You guys had no idea, and we just we just winged it.
Well, speaking of Matt, he's had nothing but good things to say about you.
Thank you. I didn't know.
He remembers you from the Hollywood scene, of course. And I was mentioning, I don't know Matt's exact age right now. I think he's in his early 60s. So there was like a slight age difference there. So you would have been one of the cool dudes on the scene when he was just coming up, But he was saying like how, for one, you had like the quintessential like look back then.
I get that a lot.
I'd say I described it as kind of a mix between Blackie Lawless and Nikki Sixx, like somewhere in between, that kind of cool.
Speaking of cats, that's Ajax.
Ajax. Hey, buddy.
He's the new one. Get down to Ajax. Come on. Actually, it was Punky Meadows. I copied Punky Meadows' hairstyle back in New York.
Right.
So when I came to LA, at first everybody thought it was Punky, and I went, "You're not Punky. Who are you?" But that was the Martian rock band. That was 1975.
This is a Bowie. This is Bowie inspired.
It's kind of a Bowie Kiss kind of a thing.
Right.
I was like a spacey version of Gene Simmons and Ace Frehley all together in one.
Right. Now going back, you're a New York guy, Amityville to be.
That's where I was born. Yeah.
That's where you were born.
I grew up in Greenpoint, Brooklyn.
Nice. So you knew the guys from there. I was reading that you dated Peter Criss's sister for a while there. Is that right?
One of them. He had three.
Okay.
I dated one. My friend John Alton from high school dated the youngest sister, Donna. I went out with Joanne, and there was an older sister, Nancy, who was single mom. The father took off, and so she had bitter resentment towards guys.
Right. No, you were into photography at this time.
In high school,
you were dating her, and you you took some of the early Kiss photos.
I did actually, absolutely.
Like this one,
right? That was at the Fillmore East show.
Wow. Well, take us back there. Tell us about like what was going on in your life at this time.
adolescence in high school, trying to find yourself, and I didn't worry so much about fitting in because I was kind of unique. I mean, I was influenced by a lot of stuff that I saw coming over from England. I was reading Melody Maker newspaper, and seeing what's going on over in the UK. So I was kind of maybe a little ahead of the curve of my peers. And I would take, I had platform shoes, with the big heels, and I'd spray glue on the heels and the platforms, and I would kind of like roll it in glitter. So they actually had, like, Gary glitter, go figure.
Right.
And whenever I'd walk down the hallways in high school, you'd see little bits of glitter coming off my shoes, kind of like Pigpen in Peanuts, leaving the little trail of dust behind him when he walked by. And they would say, "Oh, Rik was here," because you could see the trail of glitter going down the hallway.
Right. You didn't want to get caught with any crimes or commit any crimes. They'd find you right away.
Yeah, well, I was, like I said, I was kind of ahead of that curve. I joined a dance committee, which means that's Nikki Sixx's boots that he gave me.
Oh, okay. I thought these might have been the glitter boots when you're talking about glitter boots. I'm like, I think he put a boot picture.
Yeah, that's kind of like the before and after. Nikki gave them to me when they were red, and then I wore them in a movie, and the director didn't want red. He wanted everybody wearing black, and I didn't have anything else to change into, so I borrowed some gaffer's tape, and I covered the boots in black tape, and then when I went to peel it off, it started to peel the leather with it, and went off. And I painted myself into a corner. So that's kind of like, where they're at now. But those are boots that Nikki gave me.
That's cray. I mean, they got to be worth something, I would think.
And don't think people have not hit me up for them. There people are offering to buy them from me, and I'm like, I don't know, they're sentimental. Nikki gave them to me. That means a lot. He
Right.
gave me amps, he gave me bass gear, he gave me stage clothes. He didn't have to do that, but we're really good friends. He dug me because I was from New York, and he liked the New York punk scene.
Sure.
So, and we would just hang out and have beers and just like two guys talking. And next thing you know, he's like, "Hey, shout out to Devil's Budget came in. We got some new gear. Do you want my old gear?" Like, yeah, go down to SIR. It's Studio Instrument Rentals. It's waiting for you. So he would do things like that for me.
That's so cool. So this was when you came to Los Angeles. So this would have been later, right? I mean, that you were friends with him. What got you over to LA from New York?
A big jet.
You didn't fly with your arms? You didn't fly?
No. Some kids were vacationing in New York, and they walked into a store that I was working at in the West Village in New York, which is just a few doors down from Electric Lady Studios.
Okay.
And they said they were there to see Twisted Sister playing at some festival. So as the conversation went on, because they said, you look like a rock star. You look like, because I had, the rock look. And I said, Twisted Sister are friends of mine at the time, except for D. When I was friends with Mark Mendoza and Eddie and those guys. And then so they were like, wow. And the conversation went to Kiss. And they were like, wow, you actually know Kiss personally? And like, the story going out with, one of the sisters and blah, blah. And they said, we know a band in LA that you would probably be perfect for. And I said, why LA? I said, if you got to go try out for a band, it's normally within reasonable driving distance.
Sure.
Let alone across the country. And they asked me for a picture and a phone number, which I gave them. And I thought that was the end of it. And then about a month or so later, I started getting phone calls from Blackie Lawless trying to convince me to come to LA. These kids indeed gave him the picture and the phone number and all of that. We talked back and forth stuff. And he somehow scrapped the money together because he was absolutely broke. He was barely getting by. And so they got the money together and they flew me out, to LA.
Would this be like 1980 or what year was this?
February 4th, 1982.
1982. Okay.
And I still have the plane ticket stub.
Nice.
Which that airline no longer exists, but
Pan Am or something, or Brandon.
No, it was. It has a blue coloring to it. I forgot. It's in my stuff over here somewhere.
I believe you.
Yeah. So they, we wanted to try me out, and before we got to the actual audition process, Randy Piper and Tony Richards took my gear to Randy's studio in Anaheim. Randy had a huge industrial space that he would rent out for bands to rehearse. George Lynch and Mick Brown rehearsed there as with Exciter. I remember, and there was other drum sets in the room, and ours were all the way in the back. And so Blackie took me to the Troubadour, and I met some of the guys. I met Kevin DeBro, was the first star that I met in L.A. And he advised me to watch my back.
I bet.
The OJ song "Backstabber."
Right.
That's what the scene is going to be like. So he gave me the first words of wisdom. And we saw David Lee Roth was there. I think some of the guys from Crew were there, hanging out at the Troubadour at the front bar. And then afterwards, Blackie said, "Let's go up to the Rainbow." So I don't know. I'm new in town. I don't know what that is. I hear about it. I used to see it in Music Scene magazine in New York. And so we went up to the Rainbow. I walk in the door. Who's standing right there? Punky Meadows and Bruce Kulick and Michael Diamond from Legs Diamond. So Punky remembered me from New York, and he's like, "What are you doing out here?" And I said, I flew out to audition for Blackie's band. It was called Sister at the time. And
Right.
and everybody's telling me this, "Oh, well, good luck with that," kind of a saying, like, I don't know. Is this something I should know?
Sure.
So we sat down, we got a table, and we're having, I think we ordered a pizza. And who comes walking down the aisle but David Lee Roth? Just came from the Troubadour. Nice, that, "Hey, I'm here. Look at all the people here tonight." And he comes and he sits at our table. And he sits at our table. And I'm like, this is one of those pinch me moments, where I just saw Van Halen at the Palladium in New York City, like in '78, I think it was. And here's the guy sitting at the table with us, with the big grin, the typical standard David Lee Roth grin, and he's in him and Blackie are talking, and we're talking, and I was like, wow, this is my first introduction to LA and the music scene. And so that was that night. And then I think it was a day later, with jet lag and all that, we went down to Anaheim. Blackie's car wasn't working, and he didn't have the money to get it fixed. So the guy that was driving us, his name is Mike Solon. Now, for the people who are in the Kiss universe, Mike Solon is the bartender in the Blind in Texas video. And he goes, Blackie says, "We're here for the gig," and he goes, "What's a gig?"
Right. That's him.
Mike Solon. Mike Solon is also the brother of Eddie Solon. Eddie Solon was Ace Frehley's guitar tech and early Kiss, sound guy. He worked there, the soundboard for them. So there's that dot to connect in there. And Mike was our driver for several months because, like I said, Blackie's car wasn't working. And so he would drive us down to Anaheim to rehearsal, sit around for us to, for a few hours, and then drive us back to Hollywood. And so, the audition process was like 2 days. It was only 5 songs, and it's the stuff that's on the first album.
So
And
did you have a job at this point, or you just kind of went out on this invitation and were
it's
just
funny
on
you
the
should say
couches?
that. It's
Yeah.
funny you should say that. I was working one of my other jobs in Manhattan. I was working for a marketing research company,
Okay.
and they had a sister company in Century City,
Oh,
and it was Lieberman Research, and I did so well at the company in New York. I was very good friends with the company office manager, and so she called ahead and said, "We have one of our employees is transferring to Los Angeles. Can you give him an opening there at the company?" And they said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, this is great." So I would have a job waiting for me. So I'd be
perfect.
able to have, start making my own pocket money.
Yeah.
It probably would have made me a little more valuable to Blackie having a guy in the house who's got money, because he was,
Right.
like I said, he was broke. But when I got to LA and I went to that company, they said, "Well, we can't really just create an opening. We have to wait until there is one." So there goes the job, faction. I didn't have the job. So they kind of changed some things between the transit from New York to LA. So
Right.
so I
Now
was just
rent was cheap though back then. I mean, considering
well,
what it is today.
yeah, Blackie was renting a little cottage. It was 1247 and a half North Las Palmas, which is right off a fountain,
Okay. Yeah.
like that. And it was in a courtyard with several other cottages. It was a huge avocado tree in the courtyard. And I was sleeping on his floor, and then later on he created a little room. There was like he had a little loft bedroom. You'd go up some steps, and it would climb into this window, and that was where he slept. There was one outside. If you go outside the house and up onto the deck, there was another room like that. It was open, so he built a door for me to so I could sleep there, and he got me like a little single bed and a blanket or something, from the whatever the newspaper was that everybody put the ads in, so at least I had some place to sleep. But yeah, I was mostly staying on his floor and like that. And so that was pretty much it. We did the audition. I watched. Then it was 5 songs. It was really easy stuff. And then I got up and played with them. And they were kind of like, it was easy to pick up. I'm a melodic bass player.
Right.
So I tend to listen to the drummer, and I'm listening for where the melody, if there is one, where it's going, and
Sure.
I look for my spot where I can slip in and do my thing. So I was playing some walking bass lines,
Right.
like in the song "School Days," which is my favorite one. And Blackie's turned around and he goes, "Can you play simpler?" I said, "What do you mean simpler? It's like 3 chords. How much simpler can he wanted me to play instead of da 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 da.
You're going more Gene, because Gene Simmons is actually an amazing bass player, and he's like that. He has the more Motown, or not, like the Wrecking Crew kind of vibe on his playing.
Yeah, the Carol K walking bass
right.
lines. Yeah. And that's what I would do. And he's asking me not to play those walking bass lines.
Right.
So, we did On Your Knees, Hellion, BAD, Sleeping in the Fire, and School Days. And the only song I was able to get away with playing something melodic was School Days.
Okay.
And I afterwards, I'm thinking I unintentionally must have been channeling Dennis Dunaway, Alice Cooper, and Gene Simmons, because if you listen to the bass lines I'm playing on that first W.A.S.P demo, it sounds like a cross between Muscle of Love and Muscle of Love and Dr. Love. I'm intertwining both of those different bass lines on that original demo that we did.
Has this demo seen the light of day? Is it on like YouTube? If people try to look it up, can they find it?
Yeah, and the reason it got exposed to the world is because when we were done, Blackie took Randy's reel-to-reel master, and he was running dubbing copies on a cassette. So I had a cassette right off the master, and I took Don Atkins did a photo session with us, so I reduced one of the pictures on a cassette flap, just a blank cassette flap, and just on my own, I drew an imaginary, like it was an album, like I'm imagining what it would look like on a cassette, and I wrote "Face the Attack," and they had the names of all the band members and what we played on it, like that. That cassette was in a car. The girl I was going out with at the time in North Hollywood, she parked the car in this building we were staying at, and somebody went under the parking structure and stole the car. So whatever I had of my music that was in the back seat was gone. And that tape was in the back seat. Whatever we had in the trunk was still in the trunk when the police told us that we recovered the car. But somebody must have known the value of that tape, because it said W.A.S.P. and it said, Face the Attack. Back then in the 80s, before the internet, it was pirating, tape traders.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
And everybody would dub a copy and so on and so forth.
All the bootlegs were on cassette tape for the most part.
So my original W.A.S.P demo wound up being a bootleg that went around the globe hundreds and thousands of times being dubbed over and over and over and over.
One thing I think we skipped, initially you were to try out for the band Sister, and somewhere it got changed to the name W.A.S.P. Like, were you a part of that name change also?
Yeah, and Randy Piper validates that on his Full and Blue Music interview, his podcast with that channel.
Right.
Blackie was in the house. He's slumped in a chair like this, and he's watching the Yankees game on TV.
Okay.
I'm on the phone, walking around outside in the courtyard, carrying the phone with me. He had a really long extension. And I was talking to a friend in New York, and I'm just aimlessly kicking over leaves on the ground. And as one of the leaves I kicked over was, it looked like a yellow jacket. So I stepped on it real quick, and I didn't kill it. It was still moving, and the stinger was kind of moving around like that. And it reminded me of the old Green Hornet TV show. If you remember, the Hornet had that curled, like it was attacking, coming at you.
Right.
And I go back in the house, and I said, "Hey, you remember to Blackie? You remember when you were saying, now we got a new band? I don't know what I'm going to call it. I don't know what we're going to look like." I said, "You remember that conversation?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I got an idea for a band name." So he looks up at me. He goes, "What?" And I said, "W.A.S.P." I said, "I just stepped on one outside." "And you remember the Green Hornet logo?" And he's like, yeah. And he's thinking. He goes, "That's a good idea. Keep thinking like that." The next night, or the 2 nights when we were back at rehearsal, at the end of rehearsal, Blackie gathers at me and Tony and Randy. He says, "We got a new name for the band." So Randy goes, "I wanted to call the band Hellion, because that's what they call bad kids in Texas, little hellions." And I said, "I think there's already a band up in North Hollywood using that name."
Right.
So Tony says, "Well, what is it?" And Blackie goes, "W.A.S.P." So Tony goes, "W.A.S.P? Who names a band after a bug?"
Right.
I
Same with
said, "The
Rat,
Beatles."
right? In a way.
Well, yeah.
You
I said,
hear the name Rat,
Beatles.
that's a terrible name, but it's really the music that ends up going behind it is what props the name up ultimately. There's tons of goofy names. I mean, I think Kiss is kind of I don't even know what to think of that, but they made it the most awesome name ever, just like Rat did, and just like W.A.S.P did. It's crazy that these bands got away with name, something so plain word like that, out of there, that they were able to actually get it as a band. But I guess it was the beginning of that heavy metal era. They just got in right in time to snatch it.
Yep. So I said, the Beatles, Scorpions, and Blackie goes, "No, that's it. So technically, at that date and time, at that rehearsal studio, that makes all 4 of us co-founders of W.A.S.P. That's when it was born. And to this day, I've been erased from that band history and censored from it. The only 2 people that validate me is Randy Piper and Chris Holmes.
Of course.
And that's it.
So this is probably just Blackie being concerned that people are going to be like, "Hey, where's my piece of this? If I helped come up with that," or this kind of thing. He wants to avoid it. So he's just like, "No, that never happened."
He doesn't want to acknowledge the truth. Because when I was in Steeler, we were playing the Roxy one night. We were supporting Vandenberg, Adrian Vandenberg's band. And Nikki Sixx showed up with Blackie. And so we were doing like double shows that night. We would do a show, then Vandenberg, and then us again, and then Vandenberg. So in between that, we took a break. And Nikki came upstairs at the Roxy backstage with Blackie. And Nikki and I had our conversation. And he was there like congratulating me because I was in one of the top metal bands in LA at the time. You had Rat and Motley Crue, Steeler, Black and Blue. So we were part of that upper tier. And Blackie, all of a sudden, in a change of character, after kicking me out of the band, says, "Listen, if there's anything I can ever do for you, let me know. I'll help you out in the business or whatever." I said, "Do you mean that?" He says, "Well, yeah." I said, "Then why don't you just tell the truth and tell everybody that I was in the band and I came up with the."
We kind of skipped back. We skipped a little part here. I want to go back because I mean, obviously that had to be a huge disappointment when things didn't work out, and I'm assuming Blackie's the one that dropped the axe or whatever. So why don't you take us back to that? Like, what was the final straw? How did it end? How did you feel?
It's gonna seem really silly, really, really stupid, the decision that was made, but So I was in the band. I was in his house from February to May. So that's 4 months.
Right.
He's telling people I auditioned and it didn't work and I was out of the band. Well, then how do you explain me living at your house for 4 months? I
Right.
was rehearsing with the band. And so there was a couple of occasions where like I would go out to the Rainbow or whatever, and I didn't know that many people. I was a new guy in town, a fresh face, and there would be an occasional girl who would say, you know, you're cute, let's leave. You know how the how the girls
Occasional.
go.
I saw what you look like. That had to be
Well,
nightly.
it was not a regular thing. Trust me. It's no matter what they say, it didn't happen like that. So anyway, so there was one girl I brought back to the house. She's kind of she's low key, but she was famous on the scene. She was the girl that was on the cover of the Poison album, "Open Up and Say Ah,"
Okay.
you know, with the tongue. That was Bambi, and so I brought Bambi back to the house, and I didn't know that earlier in the evening, Blackie tried to pick her up, and she turned him down. She said no.
Uh-huh.
So here's me coming. She goes, well, the only place I had to go to was his house.
Right.
So I brought her back with me. So to him, that's going to look like I'm rubbing it in his face.
Okay.
You see? Yeah, I mean, your ego is fucking crushed.
I had a feeling that there was going to be a female involved in this, just when you get these good looking dudes and just fighting over chicks and stuff like that can happen. I had a feeling this was going to be it, and it is. It sounds like.
Well, it wasn't told to me until after the first WASP show at the Troubadour. They had an after party at one of the hotels on Santa Monica Boulevard. It's not there anymore. And I'm sitting on a bed with Randy Piper. We're drinking. We're having a good time. And Randy looks over at me and he goes, "You know why you got kicked out of the band?" And I said, "No. He just told me one day, it's not working. You're out of the band. Goodbye." And he says, "No, it's because you brought a girl or two back to the house that he tried to pick up and they turned him down. So it looked to him like you were rubbing it in his face."
Oh!
I had no idea this had gone on behind me. I was the innocent victim, as happens to Capricorns. We get put in these really weird situations, and it makes us look bad. But the truth doesn't come out until later, and then by then people are like, "Well, that was then." That's what happened.
Right.
And the second time was the girl whose mom, she was really well known in the LA scene. Her mom used to own the LA Rams.
Okay.
And she used to hold these huge parties at her house in West LA. Rat was there. I saw Robin and Steve there, and Juan. All the bands would come show up at her parties. I'll just say her first name was Vicky. I won't say her last name. Her dad was a composer for the Outer Limits, for the TV show, the music for Outer Limits. So he was a big time, producer and arranger of those TV shows, the music. I bring her back to the house, and then I go to the bathroom. She's upstairs. She goes up into his bedroom, and then I hear, "Come on up here." So I come up the steps. He's 3 sheets of the wind. I don't know what he was drinking. He drank a lot of vodka back then, and he was not sober. He was, I don't know how much he must. It could have been a pint. Could have been. I don't know. He was really, really drunk.
You didn't know which Blackie you were gonna get.
That too. and so she's up there, and they were talking about I don't know what, and then he goes, "Go ahead, do it." What do you mean, do it? Screw her right there, like in front of you.
Right.
It was a little. It was a little space in the ceiling that this room was. It was like under the peaks,
Right.
like that, and it was just, and it had a little mattress bed, and he had pictures of pinups on the walls, stapled to the walls, naked ladies and what of that.
Right.
And he passed out, and we were like poking him, and he's out. He's like completely out. So we did. We did it right there, like.
Nice.
But it wasn't long after that, to bring it back around. The next few days, he stops talking to me.
Okay.
That awkward feeling when you're with
Right.
somebody and they don't talk to you. and he's just not talking to me, not talking to me, not talking to me. I figure, well, something must have happened. He's upset about something. And then he finally sits down with me. He goes, listen, it's not working out. Tony's not happy. Randy's not happy. So you can't stay here. But, you know, if you want, we'll fly you back to LA. I mean, to New York. But if you want, I would advise you staying in LA if you want to make it. And that's
not even true. It sounds like after you years later talked with Randy, that wasn't the case at all. He just kind of pushed the responsibility on the other guys. It's the other guys that don't like you, but it was really sounds like he might have been a little threatened or saw like that you might be getting more attention than him, perhaps, and he wanted to get a fugglier bass player.
Well, something related to that came out years later when Chris was in the band, and Lita Ford was a featured artist on one of the award shows, and Chris was dating Lita at the time.
Right.
So Lita naturally was going to bring Chris with her to this huge award show, and Blackie actually told, and Chris will validate this. He's talked about it. He forbade him to go. He said, "You're not allowed to go." And like, where does Blackie get off telling his own band members what they can and can't do with their own life outside of the band?
Right.
You see, and he told Chris, "You are not to go to that award show with Lita." And Chris said to him, "Why?" He goes, "Because I'm jealous." So there, you know, I've heard stories from other people around. Steve Riley, when he was playing drums with W.A.S.P,
okay,
came over my apartment and told me some things about Blackie's personality and like before their pre-production meetings before they go on tour, and they would sit around discussing what their costumes are going to look like. So the guys would bring, you know, designs, and they would all look at them at the table, and Blackie would veto everybody's costume design. No. Go back, think of something else. And so they'd come back
when you have some razor blades glued on there.
Well, they come back to the next meeting, and Riley's telling me Blackie's costume is a conglomeration of everybody else's ideas.
Somebody's asking here, Skylar is saying, was Rik and W.A.S.P at the same time as Steve Riley?
No, that was later. So when they were looking for another bass player before they got Johnny Rod, Riley mentioned my name because my band Sin had played with Keel. So during sound checks, I got to be really good friends with Riley because he's from the Midwest, and I know a lot of the bands he's played with. So we kind of bonded. You know, we did the bro bond thing.
Right. And
so when they were looking for bass players, Riley told me, he goes, "Well, I suggested your name." He said, "What about Rik Fox? He's popular. He's a bass player around." And he says, Blackie blew up at him. "No, I don't want that guy in my fucking band. No." And he's like, "Wow, I didn't know what happened. What was it about you? He was so angry about you." He goes, "Now I get it. You were already in the band and he tossed you out." So he kind of put two and two together like that. So Riley was in after I was in.
So now W.A.S.P, you know, what was it the following year that they ended up getting a deal and heading off and touring? Was that a bummer to see those guys getting success after this incident?
I suppose, you know, I mean, that's how I wound up in LA. And then I got the toss.
Right.
And I didn't realize why or what I did. There was nothing wrong. He was happy with the demo. He seemed happy with the pictures kind of at the time. I didn't see, I was out of the loop on what was actually going on. So I didn't know until much later when it was told to me by Randy, "This is why you got tossed." So, and that's like I said, it's silly. He'd never cop to that. He would never admit it. And so
the boots are still there. Here, finally I can get rid of the boots. My goodness.
Those boots keep on walking. That's Aggressor. That was the last band I played in Jersey and upstate New York before I left to come to California.
Jersey metal, baby. I was born in Jersey.
There it is, Jersey metal.
Yeah. It's so cool. I know I'll randomly grab some more. You sent me a bunch of cool photos. So as we talk, you might see me pop up a photo that's just making us go back in the time machine. So we're probably going to bounce all over.
The guitar player in Aggressor was Dave Ferrara, the late Dave Ferrara. He passed away. This kind of connects a dot back to Mike Varney at Shrapnel Records.
Right.
Mike Varney was putting out a line of albums called U.S. Metal. and he was showcasing all of these up and coming hot pistolero guitar players. You know, your Tony McAlpine and like that and so on. Dave Ferrara was on U.S. Metal 4 with us. I think the song was it was either Aggressor or something that sounded like that. That's where we got the band name from. And so I didn't know anything about Varney or Shrapnel while I was still in Jersey. But this, you know, after the fact, you know, when I got into Steeler and we were on Shrapnel and U.S. Metal, and somebody showed me that Dave Ferrara, I said, oh, that's okay. I kind of connected those dots.
Right.
That the guy I played with in Aggressor was already on a released product from Shrapnel Records.
Right. You're seeing people come up from your life. Now, how long Steeler was after the WASP ordeal?
Yeah.
So take us there. Like, how much time was it between the WASP thing falling through and getting into Steeler? Tell us how that came to be, how you got in the band, the whole Yngwie connection. I want to hear all this.
Yeah, it was several months. It was the summer of '82. Like I said, he let me go at the end of May. So I don't know anybody in town. I have no you know, I'm a stranger in a strange land, as the book title goes. And so one of the only people I knew to call was this girl that lived at the apartment building on Clark Street. Her apartment was right next to Motley Crue. You know, where Nikki was the whole band had moved out. Nikki was the only one left staying.
This was the party apartment they had that everybody went nuts at all the time.
Yeah, the one on Clark Street, right up from the Whiskey. and we had been there for a party or two while I was in the band, because I watched Blackie take all of the patio furniture and drop it in the pool. Chairs, table, umbrella, the whole thing. There was a bunch of bands that were living in the building. Kid Rocker, I think they were, or they were from Chicago.
Right, with like 2Ds or something.
Yeah, they were there. And like I said, Nikki Sixx was living there. I stayed. This chick was like an escort. You know, she did you know, centerfolds and stuff like that. But I called her up. I said, Blackie kicked me out of the band. I don't have any place to go. Do you know what can you help me? That's why I learned what the couch tour was.
Yep.
You know, when you stay on people's couches.
Sure.
And she came and got me, grabbed my stuff, and brought me to her apartment. It was a huge 2-bedroom apartment. And she said, just kind of stay here until you can figure out what you want to do, where you're going to go, what's going to go on, like that. And so it was very generous. I was like the houseboy. I would wash the dishes and vacuum the rugs, you know. I try to network and meet musicians. The Whiskey was right down the street. So I saw Motley Crue headline over Metallica, and I watched Metallica get booed, things like that. It put me right in a great spot to be in for what I needed to do. And she would occasionally send me next door to go ask Nikki something. And here comes my Lita Ford story. And all the stories about Motley Crue, the lock on the door broke. That was true. There was no lock on the door. Nikki would put a chair up against the back on the inside so you couldn't open the door. And so she says, go next door and ask, I need to talk to Nikki first. And Nikki had no power. He was running an extension tap from her apartment around the back balcony into his apartment so he would have electricity. It was that bad. Yeah. I mean, and I had walked in and he's sitting on the floor under a blanket, you know, so contrast that to where he is now.
It was either to get away with the electric company back then. You could put like fake names for a minute and remember that?
I'm glad you brought that up. Let's jump back to the house with Blackie.
Right.
Outside his house, it is a breezeway, and that's where the electric meter was. You know what a bezel is, right?
I don't.
A bezel is the glass thing that goes.
Oh, that you look at the meter.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called It's called like the glass on your watch. It's called a bezel. Blackie said at a certain time of the month, shut all the windows, pull down all the curtains, make it look like nobody lives here. I says, you know, he didn't have the money to pay the electric bill. He knew how to open the bezel and dial all the numbers back to the month before because he had it written down. So to make it look like there was nobody living there.
Wow.
Which you know, when you're coming from the electric company, you've got a readout of what power was used. And then when you look at the meter, it doesn't jive.
Right.
So they started to get wise to that, and they put a locking collar, so he couldn't open it up anymore. He was stealing electricity because he was broke,
Sure.
and he said he learned that from a book by Abby Hoffman, who was a counterculture hippie guy in the 60s, and it was called "Steal This Book," and that's
I
what
remember
people would do. Yeah, he learned that in the book "Steal This Book" on how to do that. So that was one of the he was cheating the electric company out of paying them because he was broke. He would make stage monitors and fog machines just to have some pocket money, and kind of just keep returning
Props. Right.
the recycler. That was the newspaper,
Right.
and he would advertise stage wedge stage monitors. He know how to buy the speakers and the wiring, and or get a 55-gallon drum and the heating element, and I would help him making monitors and fog machines, and that was it. That was barely scraping by. So
Okay.
I'm cutting back and forth here.
Well, now we're back to Motley. Motley can't
Motley.
pay the electric, so Bambi
Right.
is giving Nikki free electricity. I
Not
wonder the
Bambi.
bill.
Her name was Roxy.
Roxy. Okay. Roxy.
But Bambi was one of the girls that was in the apartment that
All
was
right.
working. They worked for Madame Alex, Heidi Fleiss.
Wow.
There was
Okay.
this was a stable of these girls. They would go out as escorts with the rich old guys, the Arabs and whatever corporate guys, going up Sunset to the restaurants and whatnot.
So Rick, this Heidi Fleiss thing was going on from as early back as the 80s. I thought it was a 90s thing.
No, it was quite lucrative for many years.
I see.
And so I remember them saying Madame Alex. She was the older woman who had the stable of all the girls, and Heidi Fleiss was one of the girls that worked for Madame Alex. So I remember hearing the names. I never met Heidi, but so.
Well, thank God for strippers, right? Or these 80s rockers would have never survived Hollywood.
Right. So I slept on a couch, and I had a couple of dollars to eat. They would take me out to the Rainbow or whatever to get something to eat. And so she sends me next door to get Nikki. So I knock on the door, and I could hear Nikki inside going, "Yeah, what do you want?" And I said, "Roxy sent me over. She wants to ask you something." He goes, "All right." He goes, "Come on in, dude." I pushed the door open. He had these two red leather love seats on the side against the wall, pushed together to make like a pit couch. Okay. And I didn't realize he had company. He got up, he was walking around or something, and I saw the blanket move. And I looked over, and I started to see just at the top of the blanket, there's a little bit of blonde hair sticking up. And the blanket starts to come down, and I see the eyes. And I know people by their eyes. I went, "Lita?" She pulls the blanket down. She goes, "Dude." She goes, "I know you." And I said, "Yeah, I met you when you were in the Runaways, when you guys played CBGBs in the 70s. She goes, "That's where I know you from." Because we talked after the show. And so, she got up, got dressed, and took me and Nikki out. There was that restaurant right across from Tower Records where Sunset splits.
Right.
I think it was called Old World or something.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody wanted to eat out on that patio. So Lita said, "Let's go out for breakfast." I'm like, me and Nikki look at each other like, we're broke. She goes, "I got this. So Lita Ford took me and Nikki out for breakfast.
That's so cool.
Wayne's World.
No, right. So, yeah, now she had the Runaways was over at this point, and she was doing her solo, embarking on her solo career. Was she dating Chris Holmes at this time that she was over at Nikki's house, or was that?
That was later. That was years later.
Okay. So now let's get to Steeler. You were going to tell me how this girl actually hooked you up with the gig.
What happened was I saw Steeler at the Roxy, and I was there with Eric Carr. We were both watching Kiss. Steeler. And that's when Eric says to me, "You know Bambi?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Did you date her?" I said, "Well, briefly. We're good friends." He goes, "Can you set us up?" I said, "Sure." So I introduced him to Bambi, because Eric liked darker skinned girls. Mm-hmm. So Bambi had a cafe au lait complexion. So I hooked them up. Meanwhile, I'm watching Steeler, and I'm going, "This guy, the singer, he's going to be a star." Everybody in the band was very good at what they did.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't look like they fit in LA. I don't know how to put that.
Sure.
These guys came from Nashville, so they didn't have kind of the look like like Rat Hat.
What did they? What were they dressing like?
Spandex, and their haircuts were not really like rock and roll. They were just long.
So was it? They were going for more like the '70s heavy metal look, kind of compared to what the new Hollywood teased kind of thing was.
I kind of think of it as guys who came from the Midwest who don't know what LA looks like and are trying to fit in. But meanwhile, Steeler had played every venue in Southern California then and the whole scene. So they were well known. I think they were headlining. And so that was my first impression of seeing, I said, Ron Keel, this guy's going to be a star. Listen, I mean, I'm like this with my ears because, it hurt the pitches he was hitting. And so
I'm jumping around here. This was an '82 WASP.
That was the picture from the photo session Don Atkins took at his parents' house. Meanwhile, I had been rehearsing. I got up. Tried out with a band called Warlord.
All right.
Very, very, I don't want to say progressive. It's all minor scales. Everything they played was minor scale. There's no major scale to any of their music. It was dark like Dio, kind of like that. Very complex. I had no experience playing minor scales.
Look at this guy.
That was at Gazzari's. My band Thunderbolt co-headlined with Pretty Boy Floyd.
That's rad.
That was a fun gig. It was a really.
Where do you even get the whole getup? I mean, you got some pretty.
I make the stuff.
You made all the stuff?
Not all of it. I'm not the pants, but I make the shirts, the accessories, all that stuff. Those leather things around my legs. Believe it or not, I got that idea from Stephen Pearcy.
Rad.
He's had something similar to that around his legs. And I had an old pair of white leather pants that I didn't wear anymore. So I cut the legs and I wore them like leg warmers, over my white boots.
He was into that. I mean, he kind of dubbed his early Mickey route as fashion rock.
Yeah, and they nobody else looked like them, so it was pretty cool. They were pioneering their road.
Originally, they kind of started with the pirate look, where it was almost a little too piratey, but then they slipped into a more ritzy kind of thing.
Stephen kind of had that Adam Ant kind of vibe going on.
He totally ripped off Adam Ant. I mean, he made a point of saying that was totally where he got.
I could see that. You know what? After I was out of WASP, one of the guys who had handed Blackie my number, he had an apartment in Hollywood, and after I got left Roxy's apartment, I moved into that place. It was right around the corner from Cantor's Deli.
Cantor's.
Oh, yeah, right off of Fairfax.
Right.
And we would have barbecues on the sidewalk. Speaking of Stephen, and I'm trying to network and meet bands. So we would tell everybody in the scene, "Hey, we're having a barbecue at our place. Everybody come on over." And I had the barbecue grill out on the sidewalk, and we guys from Rat showed up. Stephen was there. Robin was there. I don't know if Blotzer was. No, Blotzer wasn't there yet. Anyway, so a bunch of the people from the bands, and I couldn't get the grill to light up, and I put too much lighter fluid on it, and I tossed a match, and it made like a mushroom cloud, like a gasoline mushroom cloud. And I remember Pearcy getting like panic and step back. Goes, "This guy's nuts!"
Right, with all that Aquanet going on, you almost killed like 20 people.
That too. Yeah, but we used to put on these rock and roll barbecues, so we'd invite people over, so I'd have an opportunity to meet who's who,
right?
And like that. So
there was a camaraderie, from what Steven tells me, with like the cool bands all hung out together. But then there was like a kind of turning point with the Metallica guys specifically, where Steven, when he talks about his memories, that they didn't want to really be a part of the Hollywood crowd. They were opening for bands like Rough Cut or Sarge or this, but Metallica was like a different kind of zit-faced, straggly-haired band, and they were. Steven makes a joke. He asks them, "Hey, don't you guys want to be friends?" And they go, "No." I don't know if that was actually true.
Yeah,
but
we had a term back then for guys that looked like hippies but played hard rock. I
Right.
think we called them Hessians.
Hessians, right. I recall that. I was kind of called that too as a young Hessian, I guess, in the
Yeah.
late 80s,
Yeah.
early 90s.
Yeah, so that term would go around. Like it's like they didn't have the word poser yet, so he called each other Hessians like that. And well, later Blotzer came up with this gesture. He'd go like this with his hand, and he'd say, "Man, that was rude, man. That was just totally rude." He didn't even do that. How these guys come up with their own shtick. Anyway, I got turned on to this band in North Hollywood called Warlord, and I'm rehearsing with them. And then several months goes by, and then I said to them one day, "So I assume when we get a singer, we're going to do some gigs, right?" And they just like froze, like a deer in the headlights. These guys were like, "Live? What are you talking about live? This is a recording project. We're just going to record. We're not playing live." And so I said, "Guys, I wish you would have told me that at the outset. I'm a live player, and I thank you for let me play with you guys, but I can't stay in a band. It's not going to play live."
Right.
So I packed up my bass and I left. And of course they had bad feelings about it for many years.
This is Warlord we're talking
Warlord,
about here.
yeah.
Got it.
And so but it was a challenge learning their music, which made me a better player. So I'm grateful for that. Right around that time, I just got kind of like fed up, and I put an ad in Music Connection magazine.
Mm-hmm.
I said, bassist from New York. I worked with Thor for a while. I'm friends with the guys in Kiss, blah, 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 blah. And I got contacted by Ron Keel. And that's how that happened. And he said, come to where, their rehearsal space was called the Steeler Mansion. It was actually 3 gutted storefronts full of roaches.
Wow.
So the Steeler Mansion was kind of an inside joke because it was
Sure.
It was very Spartan. I mean, they guys were sleeping on milk crates in there, So I go to meet Ron, and I walk in. I'm like, "Well, where's all your gear?" These guys were self-contained, band truck, lights, PA, everything. The guitar player's father was like the Colonel with Elvis. He owned all of that.
Nice.
And I walked in, it was nothing there. It was just a drum riser, and Ron had his Flying V guitar, and I think he had a little rental amp from SIR because he was before he got married, he was dating Dee Dee Keel, who, as you know, from the whiskey and like that worked for
friends
Elmer
with Dee Dee.
Yeah. So she was in the picture. Her and Ron were an item at the time. I didn't know her yet.
Sure.
And Ron said he had to let the band go. He said, "Look what I'm up against. I got you guys, Rat, Motley Crue, Black and Blue." He goes, my guys, we can't compete with that. I need a band. And he said this in one of the metal documentaries. He goes, "I need a band where guys already look like they're signed and have been on the road.
Right.
I need that kind of an image." He goes,
road ready.
Yeah. And he said, "People have talked about you. They said this guy with the perfect hair and like that. And you look like a rock star." She goes, "I need rock stars. I need rock stars in a band."
Yeah.
And so he gave me the cassette. It was like 5 or 6 songs. He goes, "No promises. Learn these songs and come back. We'll see what happens from there." I said, "All right, that's fair enough." And I went back to the apartment I was at. I learned the songs. I went back a few days later, and Ron and I would sit one-on-one, face to face. I think I had a little pig nose amp, if you remember those.
Oh, yeah.
And we just played together like that and talked like we're talking now. And I told him I knew the guys in Kiss, and he got excited about that. He was a big Kiss fan. I said, I know Sean Delaney, who taught Kiss all of their stage moves. I worked with Sean on other projects, so I can work with you. I can show you what Sean taught me like that. And so, we got on well. And then he said, the drummer's coming back in from Texas, which was Mark Edwards. Mark came back into town. He picked up his drums from storage, set up his drums. Now there's the 3 of us, me, Ron, and Mark Edwards. And so now that the 3 of us are playing, getting tight. And although I came from a background of playing 6 nights a week, 4 or 5 sets a night in Jersey and upstate New York, Mark taught me about listening to what the drummer is playing, listen to the beat, listen all the technicalities.
Right.
I never really took that into consideration. So I credit Mark with helping me understand what the drummer's language is and what he's saying, and you learn to anticipate when he's going to do something, when he's on and whatever, or do a roll. Whatever. So we got tight. And Ron was already in touch with Varney, and he says, "I need a guitar player from hell." Little did we know how prophetic that would be.
Sure.
And so we got on the phone on a three-way conference with Malmsteen in Sweden and Mike Varney and us in Hollywood. And he's like, "Yeah, man, I want to come play in your band. I heard all kinds of great things, and I heard some of your songs." And this guy was gung-ho. He was motivated. I was like, "All right, this," and we heard a little bit of stuff, his stuff on Varney sent us. So
is this 1983, Rick? What year is this? 84?
It was still 82.
Still 82.
Wait,
so
no,
a lot's happening this year.
I beg your pardon. I got the official "I'm in" Steeler on December 28th, my birthday of 1982, at the Rainbow.
Okay,
so
I
had moved. Yeah, I had now moved into the Steeler mansion. I took one of the spare rooms, and I was living there with them. And so Malmsteen came in almost a year to the day that I arrived in L.A. He first week of February. We went to LAX to pick him up, and we're like, "Is this the same guy we talked to on the phone?" Because he's like, the hair flip, and the Viking has arrived, and he's got all the occult jewelry, and like that. And
you had seen photos of him at least or something, right? Before sending him out, he had something to look at. There was no internet back then, but
yeah, I don't recall if I saw any pictures of him, but he kind of looked a little bit like Lars Ulrich with longer hair.
How did you get, like, did he answer an ad in the recycler, or like, how did you end up with a guy overseas?
Mike Varney, he had, the middle series.
Okay.
So the Guitar
Wizard thing, he knew him from doing the guitar records, and he referred him. Okay, got it.
Everybody was sending Varney tapes.
All right.
And Yngwie was already something established in Sweden. I think he did something with CBS in Sweden, but he could only get so far against the glass ceiling because they didn't want to hear anything about rock and roll in Sweden. This is the country that gave us ABBA, okay?
Right.
So they were not interested in Yngwie Malmsteen, and all of the sweeping arpeggios and all of that.
He knew he needed to get to Los Angeles.
Exactly. He needed to break out and get to the U.S. however possible. Looking back retrospectively, he probably used us as that launching point to get into America. Join a band, play with them, and then take off and do your own
Steeler
thing.
would be the stepping stone for him.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. Like that. As soon as we plugged in to play the first time, after we ran through a bunch of the songs, he really wasn't that happy with them. He expressed disappointment to Ron's face and said, "Is there anything we can do to make these songs a little more interesting? Because they're quite boring." I'll leave out the expletive, but he said they were boring. So we started auditioning other guitar players while Yngwie was living with us.
Yeah, you're like, "Oh, this guy's full of himself. We're gonna definitely need somebody else."
Yeah, it was like, to hear what he said to Ron, and I looked up at Mark on the drum riser, and I'm like, Mark's looking up like, whoa, did we just hear what the new guy said to the boss? So we started auditioning other guitar players, and after a few days of that and not working, Malmsteen came back over. He said, "All right, look, I'll play the game. Let's do this. Let's just do this." And we did. Everybody knuckled down, and we got so tight you couldn't slip a piece of paper in between us like that. It's rehearse, take a break, rehearse, like that, And so next thing you know, March 11th, we got a gig. We got to open for Hughes Thrall, which was Pat Thrall and Glenn Hughes at the Country Club.
Wow.
And Yngwie tells a story that says there was maybe 30 people in the club. That place was packed. I'm here to tell you, elbow to elbow. And Stephen was there. Olive Rat was there, sitting with Dee Dee. And there's kind of a little back crossover here. I had during that summer before Warlord, I had actually auditioned for Rat. And I still have the cassette of all the songs that Stephen gave me. There's no vocals on them. It's just all instrumental. But I auditioned in that garage in Culver City where they were rehearsing. And that's where I met Blotzer. And we didn't hit it off very well right off the bat. But do
you think that was because of an East Coast, West Coast thing? Because even me moving from Jersey to California, I remember I didn't quite fit in. I had to lose the accent pretty quick to assimilate.
what happened was Blusher goes, "Can you play with your fingers?" I
Uh,
said, "Yeah." I said, "But I prefer to use a pick." He goes,
right.
"I don't like bass players to play with a pick. I like 'em- I want to feel it. I want to get in the groove. I want to see them play with their fingers." I said, "Listen, here comes my New York." I said, "I don't tell you how to play with what kind of sticks to use. Don't tell me how to play with a pick or not with a pick."
Right.
And that pissed him off. He just turned red in the face. I mean, Robin was laughing, Steven was laughing, and he didn't want anybody laughing at him because I won the joke, and that's how we didn't hit it off. And I was playing a Ibanez Destroyer, the Explorer body bass,
Right.
and I had these little silver prism stars I put on the fret markers like that. So when the light hits them, they dazzle. And I think that bugged him too. So cut to the Steelers show. Curtain goes up. This is not your daddy's Steeler. This is not the Steeler you saw the year before. There's Momstein like winging it away on that side of the so everybody's like, whoa, on there. And there's me with my leather outfit. They're looking all flashy, and they're like, whoa, who's this guy? Oh, I saw him around the scene. That's what he does. He's a bass player. And we came on like guns blazing. And at the end of the show, I'm dressing room. I'm wiping my bass down. Everybody's coming backstage. Dee Dee said, Steven said, "Wow, who's the bass player? He's pretty cool." So, nice compliment. They didn't recognize me in the stage gear from when I auditioned for them months ago. I guess I didn't look the same or something.
Mm-hmm.
Blotcher comes walking by in the hallway, and I'm wiping, and he looks at me, and I look at him. I said, "Not bad for disco stars, huh?" And he realized, because that's what he called them, disco stars. He realized who I was, and he turned red in the face. He got embarrassed, and he took off, down the hall. So it's little moments like that where I get to go back. It's a little satisfaction moment there when the guys who are making fun of you turn around and see you actually kicking ass on stage, and they're like, "Oh, that's the same guy."
Now, wasn't Dee Dee like booking all the bands at some of these places? That's how Steven knew her, because like when you're trying to get in with your band, and obviously Steven was from San Diego, but he knew it was happening in LA too. He took Mickey Rad up there, and he had a friend up with Dee Dee right away if he wanted some gigs.
Yeah, Dee Dee became friends with everybody that played there. She had her thumb on the scene. She knew everything that was going on.
Sure.
She worked for Mike, but and Elmer Valentine, Mike Maglieri, and the guys that own the Whiskey and the Rainbow and the Roxy. They had that whole trifecta of the Sunset Strip going like that. And so Dee Dee was connected with everybody like that. And then and Ron wound up going out with her eventually and married her. And, they had kids and whatnot. But it was, and there was also that. We had this back in New York in a couple of clubs too. If you play the Trube, you can't play the Whiskey. If you play the Whiskey, you can't play the Trube. Or at least within a month or 2 months of playing one venue. The venues would play off.
They need to have your numbers at a maximum level when you're coming in to play on the Strip at such said place.
Yeah, and it was, it was a hell of a ride. I was very fortunate. Steeler put me on the map, and I got to do things that most people dream of. And live the Hollywood, the whole thing, the Sunset Strip and the clubs and meeting all the stars who I became friends with. And, that's like I said, it's stuff that some people just dream of. After so many years of doing it, some of the guys kind of tend to, you look at it like we're jaded, all right, that's no big deal. I know that guy. I don't look at it that way because I was raised differently,
Right.
I like to maintain friendships with the guys that I play with, and when we were on stage with Steeler, Pat Thrall was at the door to the stage door. He's peeking around, watching Momstein with his jaw open. So after the show, I got to I didn't get to meet Glenn Hughes, but I got to talk to Pat. And he's like, "Where did you get this guy?" It's like what did you unleash onto the world? and all like that. And so I said, "You mind it? I don't know if you recognize me. You played with Pat Travers and Tommy Aldridge at the Palladium like just a few years ago." Because I was always at the Palladium. I was always able to get in and see the shows. And he goes, I thought you looked familiar. I said, I was down in the front row watching you guys play. And I said, oh, by the way, I have both of your Automatic Man albums, which didn't sell that well. But he was very appreciative that I got both of your
You were a
Automatic
true
Man
fan,
albums.
right?
Yeah. He goes, oh, thank you so much. So that, little things like that mean something to the bigger
Chris
guys.
Kruger's asking. He said Steeler's first album was on Shrapnel label too, right? Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Very
and
cool.
Shrapnel has most of the Shrapnel catalog has now been Varney sold it to Sony.
Oh,
So technically we're on Sony now. Like that.
That's super cool. I wanted to interject something about Ron Keel because this is kind of a weird turning point. Obviously, you're Steven's generation. I'm a couple decades younger, but my first concert that I ever played guitar at in San Diego was opening for Ron Keel.
Wow.
How weird is that? He had an all female band at this time. This would have been
Fair game. That was
fair game. Bingo.
Yeah.
It was like 19, I want to say like 92 maybe, or 91, around there.
Thereabouts.
We played the now defunct the Bacchanal, which we called the Butt Canal. But I remember it was a kind of important show for me because I had never played like a live concert somewhere. I've only rehearsed with bands, minus like playing at the junior high school or something.
Yeah.
And I felt like this was going to be a big turning point for me. Like if I could get through the show without any screw ups, I'd know that I have what it takes to proceed in the rock world. And so I love that he was the guy, Ron Keel. So we have that kind of a connection of having played.
That's cool. That's
Hard
another
Knock.
dot to connect.
That's right.
I was gonna say the only show I ever played at in San Diego was the Hilltop Roll Arena. I don't know if that rings a bell.
I didn't know. It might have been, what was that, in the 80s or something? Or
84. I had my band Sin, and I don't know how we got booked. There was the big band out there at the time was called Bible Black.
I do remember them.
Okay, and Rod was the band leader, but he found out about us somehow, and he wanted to bring us down to San Diego, and he wanted to open for us, and so we did, and we drove down to San Diego. They were still building the stage when we showed up for load in. There was just still drilling down all the plywood like that. But yeah, so we played the Hilltop Roll Arena, and it was the after show party at the hotel was just like what you hear about in the glory days of bands and parties. And we got tossed out of the hotel and escorted to the county line by the San Diego Sheriff's Department.
Nice.
So
now Steeler, how many shows did Steeler do with you in the band? Was it just like monthly kind of things you were doing? You can only play like every other month up in Hollywood.
Well, the first one was March 11th in 83. Then we did that was Country Club. We did the Troubadour. We did the Roxy. What else did we do? There was about 6 or 7 shows. I'm trying to remember where the venues were.
This probably took you over the course of through 1983 and 84.
Yeah, well, it's a later 83. It was maybe late summer of 83. Because at that point, the last show we did was in Orange County at Radio City, and it was right next to a club called the Woodstock. And
were you still in Bambi's apartment at this time?
No, I was living at the Steeler Mansion.
Okay, yeah, that's right. You did move into Steeler Mansion.
Yeah. We were fighting the roaches in the kitchen, which was the room that Yngwie drew the kitchen straw, and he was sleeping on the waterbed that the bass player had left there, and all the roaches. When you turn on the gas on the stove, you can hear all the roaches bailing, hitting the newspaper on the floor before the fire would come on.
Wow.
So our last show was at Radio City. We were supposed to have a band meeting the next day. And next day comes, Ron's not there, Momstein's not there. It's just me and Mark Edwards, the drummer. And he says, it falls upon me to be the deliverer of bearer of bad news. I said, what happened? What's up? He said, Yngwie's out of the band. He had already networked and joined Alcatraz.
Okay.
And did his bent his path to go into its Alcatraz. He goes, and the other part, I said, yeah, what else? He goes, you're out of the band. I said, what did I do? He goes, nothing in particular. He says, Ron and I decided we want to start over from scratch again. So, I had to pack up all my stuff there. And the girl I was going out with, I had to move in with her place in Venice. I was now out of Steeler. And there was no really, there was no resolve. There was no proper closing as to why I was out of the band. It's just you're out of the band. Like that.
So they were continuing on. My headphones got the butt bongos hit my headphones and they unplugged for 1 second.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry I missed that last part. So he was the bearer of bad news, and then the band's disbanding, or they were going to continue on, but you just weren't going to be a part of it.
I was. They were going to continue, and I was out of the band. So, and it's like, welcome to Hollywood. This happens a lot.
You were there up until Yngwie left, and then they just decided we're just going to change everything at this point.
I was the first bassist on U.S. soil to go toe-to-toe with Malmsteen on a daily basis, and I survived unscathed. So that he didn't scare me.
Right.
He was great, great player, but he didn't scare me. I was not intimidated by that.
How you guys were young too, still at this time. I mean, what are you like 25 now at this point or something? I mean,
they were young. I was the oldest guy. I was 27.
27.
They were all like 22, 23.
Right.
Malmsteen was 19.
Sure.
Like that.
I didn't get the gig with Piercy till I was like almost 28. I was like 27, turning 28. I think that was the number that I had in my mind, that if I didn't get into something serious by that point, I was going to probably try to get a real job. I don't know. Did you have a number like that at that time?
I had done some part-time day job stuff here and there, enough to where I could. This was unheard of at the time, where I could combine my New York unemployment with my LA unemployment and make it one account. And I asked them if they could do that, and they went, okay. So
really?
I was able to combine my New York unemployment with whatever LA jobs that I had done. And so I was able to get a little bit of unemployment. Since I had a couple of dollars in my pocket, I was the only guy in Steeler that had a couple of dollars in my pocket because we were all starving.
Right.
We learned very creative ways of eating top ramen like that. And once a week, our stage manager, Mark Workman, on Sunday, we would go over his apartment, and his Korean girlfriend would make us a home cooked meal.
Nice.
Like that. And if there was anything left, we'd take it back to the mansion like that. But
I was on that same top ramen diet, and it was so awful, to survive those the 80s and 90s like that. Like, I would never in a million years eat one of those top ramen packets today.
No, I wouldn't. I don't use the powder because that's where all the bad stuff is, in the flavor powder. But our guitar tech, Jimmy Isaac, was the one that taught me, like the soldiers, our military guys do with MREs. They find creative ways of making them, eating them differently.
Sure.
So Jimmy would show us different ways to prepare ramen. Like
they do that in prison too, Rick. They do that in prison.
I can imagine. But so there was that, and then the girl I was going out with, she would sometimes cook some stuff at home, like spaghetti or whatever, and bring it. And she brought all of this furniture, a table, chairs. We actually had a place to sit down in the middle of the floor in the common room like that, and silverware and dishes. And nobody ever said thank you. This is, everybody's minds were in a different place back then. And I was just observing, being the older guy, who acts a certain way, and who's pulling strings, and who's controlling this, that, and the other. And back
then it seemed like there was just a overblown attitude where, like, hey, here's the schematic for being a rock star. You have to have a big attitude, act like you're better than everybody else. You have to have this certain look and all this. And I think it's changed. Like, the kids nowadays, like, I've said this on my show several times, but this younger generation, I don't even know what they're called. I forgot what they're naming the new 25-year-old generation. The hell. Well, anyways, they're actually got the talent, and they do have the look. They really love the whole 80s aesthetic. I mean, they would be considered grandkids of the 80s guys, this age group, but
Yeah.
they don't have that crazy overblown attitude, which is nice to see. They're actually work well with others and get gigs. Nashville's turning into like the new spot for the younger players compared to Hollywood. I don't know, man. I don't know what you think of Hollywood, but in my opinion, in the last 20 years, it's really everybody got out of there.
Yeah, Hollywood is a shadow of itself, a mere shadow. That magic will never be resurrected again. Not the way we had it back then, like
No.
that. There was a lot of egos driving a lot of the bands in the '80s because it was very competitive. I would see bands watching other bands, and I would hear them, mocking them and saying these guys suck and these guys are. And then after the show, they're in the dressing room patting them on the back, saying, "Hey, you guys are great." I got to observe a lot of different attitudes and how people were to each other. The Kevin DeBro memory was coming back about the Backstabbers, like that.
I think so, New York versus the East Coast, West Coast. One thing that I noticed moving out here was like the West Coast guys were way flakier and than the East Coast guys. Like your word meant more on the East Coast, at least in that time.
I mean, it was a small scene, but it was a big scene. And, you don't mouth off, because if you mouth off, you get your ass handed to you.
Right.
And that was a survival tool, sarcasm and all of that. That's how you survived on the East Coast in New York and Jersey and, like that. And you come to LA and you introduce that New York type mentality, that mindset to the people in Hollywood. And they're like, you're nuts. How do you even say stuff like that? And several times I saw Rat playing like Whiskey and whatnot. Man, I can't tell you how many lineup changes I saw.
Right.
I saw them with Jakey Lee. I saw them with Mark Tureen. I saw them with Warren. I saw Gene on bass. I saw Juan on bass.
Do you remember Matt Thorne from Rough Cut?
Oh yeah. And he played with Sarge. I remember Matt.
Right.
Matt was always one of the nicest guys.
Right.
Yeah, always nice. Yeah. Never a weird vibe around him. He was always easy to get along with, like that.
Well, he looked up to you. I mean, from what he tells me, he filled me in a little bit when you came to play with us that time. I was, he goes, "Oh yeah, I knew Rik back then." He was like one of the coolest looking dudes back then, just with the whole presentation and everything. So he aspired to be like you, I think.
I don't know about that. I mean, he was always in better gigs than I got, until I was in Steeler. But how that happened was I saw the Retromania ads, and I was trying to find out who's running it, so I could. I saw Stephen Piercy on the bill, and I figured, let me reach out and see if maybe if I could come hang out with you guys or something. And it took me a while, a lot of tracing and networking to find out who was in where. And I finally got in touch with those people, and I said, I'm a recording artist out of LA. I'm new here. These guys are friends of mine from back in the day. I reached out and I got in touch with Steven. And I said, hey, we haven't seen each other in like decades. I'm living in Missouri. I'm only a couple hours from Branson. I said, would it be okay if I came and hung out with you guys? And he says, like, yeah, sure, no problem. We'll give you a pass. We'll tighten you up. Everything will be great. We'll hang. It'd be good to see you again. I said, all right, then that was it. That was the first phone call. Then he calls me back about 20 minutes later. Contacts me, goes, hey, you want to jam?
I said, Steven's always good like that. Steven's guys go, hey, come on up and jam. He's always done that. Like he brought me on stage with Arcade when I was only about 18 years old or something. Hey, you want to come up and jam on that? It was like some huge like New Year's Eve concert, opening for Arcade and or my regional band Voodoo. And I know that was like the first taste of playing for. I mean, it was probably, I don't know how many people there. It was well over 1,000,
Yeah. And so I said, you mean on stage with you? He goes, yeah. He goes, learn you think you're tough. I said, all right. And what I did was I got on my computer and I watched every live version of You Think You're Tough so I could learn where all the cues were.
Sure.
So I did my woodshed. I did my homework like that. And and I learned a song. And then as I'm driving down there the day of, I think on the day before, day of the show, Stephen, I'm driving. He's texting me. He goes, I don't know if they might cut our sound check, or they might cut our set list. So I don't know if you're going to be able to play. I said, look, I got the bass with me. I'm on my way. Whatever happens, I'm just, we get to fucking hang. He goes, all right, cool. And then I get down and he's like, it's cool. It's in, you're going to play. So, and that was, I'm in. So I like that. It was great. I walked on the stage. Everybody's setting up, and there's
I think that's when we first met. We were just walking around waiting to see when our chance would be to sound check or do something.
Yeah. And W.A.S.P was still listening to the song on his headset.
Right.
Like
he just joined then at that time, right? I mean, he had only been in the band briefly.
I knew of him from playing with Slaughter.
Right.
And the Dana Strum from Slaughter produced my band Sin in 84, 85.
Well, that's a cool connection.
Yeah, there was that connection as well. And Dana was, when he was producing Sin, he was the bass player and the producer of Vinnie Vincent Invasion, which is how Vinnie wound up stealing my song On the Run. So Dana and I have that connection. But to meet W.A.S.P, I was like, holy crap, it's freaking Blas Elias. Wow.
Right.
I was like, I was kind of amazed because I mean, God, he plays with Trans-Siberian and
me too. Getting to play with these guys. I mean, even being younger, I think it has even a deeper effect on me. I mean, because you're around when these guys kind of caught their break, but for my generation, it's like we just saw these guys on MTV and thought everybody was larger than life, including W.A.S.P. To me, I thought W.A.S.P was the biggest band around. I could understand why would I look in the paper and they would be playing the Celebrity Theater or somewhere. They maybe weren't as big as I perceived them to be at the time. More of a cult following, really, going forward. But anywho,
yeah. So that all worked out fine, and I had watched a couple of Jason's channel shows,
right?
And somebody sent me a message in Facebook. So you better watch this episode. They're at some rock and roll museum / barbershop in Vegas, and it was Jason was with Johnny, and they came up to a Steeler poster on the wall, and there was some pointing and giggling, and something was said that was kind of partially inaudible. And so I reached out to Jason and I said, "What happened? What were you guys giggling?" They pointed specifically to me. They said Rik Fox and like that, and it was giggling. And I said, "So what was that about?" And Jason's like, I don't remember. And that was the first, because people were referring me to him saying, "You got to get on this guy's show. He interviews all these stars. He does podcasts." So I reached out to him. I said, "Hey, I was referred to you. You want to do an interview?" He said, "I'm busy right now at Rat. Let me get back to you." I mean, with Stephen Piercy, let me get back to you. A year goes by. I reached out to him again. I said, we still on? We're available? He goes, "I'm still on the road with Stephen. Let me get back to you." That's twice. I'm not going to call him the third time. I get it.
It was definitely detrimental to our band, any involvement with him. Like people that have watched my Unleashed episodes, specifically number 15 and number 30. If you want to hear me go off on this guy, you'll hear it. But I know the same thing. Like when you catch somebody talking smack and you call them out on it, and then they deny it. Those guys did the same thing to me, and I'm in their band. You know what I mean? When I first started doing podcasting with Chris Aiken 3 years ago, I happened to click on their show the next day, and I hear them same thing, laughing and snickering back and forth to each other, and I hear Jason going, "You don't give that guy a voice," saying how stupid I am and how I shouldn't have a voice, and I'm going, "Holy crap!" And I said something to Steven because he hadn't been working with us for all that long yet. And I was trying to point out the red flags in this. He actually kind of freaked out and called me to assure me that he wasn't talking about me. I'm like, well, who are you talking about then? And he couldn't come up with a name. He couldn't come up with somebody. And it was at that time I kind of realized, okay, this is bad. And the next 3 years would get horrible for me between the two of them. I really just, people ask how they lasted so long. They needed each other. Jason definitely kept Johnny in the fold. They both should have been booted within the first, couple of months. But we finally got that behind us. Right now, I don't know if you're familiar with Joel Hoekstra, which is
I know the name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's played with Cher. He's played with Night Ranger. He was in Whitesnake. I mean, he is amazing.
He's like Mitch Perry. He's played in a lot of big bands.
Yeah, these are you know, or Doug or are these guys. He's definitely at the top of the mountain of guitars here. So him joining our band just takes things to a whole nother level. I mean, Jason had a way of like constantly putting out there almost like a spell or witchcraft or something, or some kind of cult tactic. He would just keep repeating the same thing over, that Johnny's 10 times better than everybody. He's 10 times better. And it's like, dude, the guy can play, but there are so many fantastic players out there that aren't stabbing people in the back or shit talking each other or throwing people under the bus or trying to get one over. There's so many. And I just had to kind of roll with it. I mean, we all probably need some kind of therapy from the whole thing. But you know, my apologies to you for how you're treated, or anybody listening to this, because I would even hear things from Joel. You know, Joe's like, hey, those guys didn't treat me too good, either one of them, and you had realized how many people they rubbed the wrong way. And this ends up reflecting back on Steven, unfortunately, even though he wasn't even aware that these guys were saying such awful things around the scene. Eventually that contributed to both of their firings, and then a whole bunch of other horrible things came out after that. But we're still kind of, you know, picking up the pieces from all this.
Yeah.
So
I know how it feels to be shamed and bullied. And when I saw that happening to you, I was like, that ain't right, man. That's you know,
No.
you don't shit where you eat, you know. It's
no.
and like that. And so when I walked into this backstage during the setup of that afternoon, and he was standing there with his girlfriend, and I said, "So finally we meet," you know. And I didn't bring up,
right,
you know, the thing. I didn't want anything to bad vibe it. And he's like, you know, so it was like he kind of had that weird kind of a distant, standoffish, but cordial kind of like that.
Sure.
And then, you know, and Johnny, I tried to be open and friendly, you know, and I just was getting this kind of strange vibe, because if the guy was mocking me a couple of years ago, now we're on stage together playing off of each other. That's got to feel weird, you know, like that. And
yeah, it's very awkward.
He came over to me while we were playing, so we kind of grooved together like that, you know. And that was, I mean, the song goes by like that, so I'm trying to absorb all of this,
sure,
you know, and then grooving over with you, and then blasting. You know, Steve would come over and kind of like rock with me and tap me on the leg and whatever. You know, Kirsty was so kind. She took a video of it, which is, you know, on YouTube, which put a nice feather in my resume cap, so to speak. You know, because wow, I'm on the big stage with Stephen frickin' Piercy, and it's like lights and the whole, you know, so that was awesome. It was very awesome, and I'm very grateful, you know, that you guys did that for me. And
how long had it been? Like, I know we're jumping around, but you hadn't been on stage in a bit before you came up with us?
Yes and no. Since when my wife and I moved to Missouri, because she grew up in Missouri, I know nothing about it, you know.
Okay.
She was a horse trainer as well, so we needed to find equestrian property, and the very last place we looked at was a tiny little town like Mayberry, called Willow Springs, which is an hour and a half from Springfield. And after she passed, I just happened to be flipping through Facebook, and I saw this band name, Machine Gun Symphony. I said, that sounds like an LA band, you know. I don't know if you see that. And said, so I reached out to them, and I said, hey, I'm new here. I don't know anybody. Can I come network with you guys or something? And you know, I'm out of LA, and just like Steven.
Hold up the CD later, again. I didn't mean to switch things. This Machine Gun Symphony from Missouri?
Yeah, it's one of their backstage passes. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, they're out of Springfield. They're like the biggest 80s tribute band here. You know, like that. And the singer, Jay Stevens, played the LA scene after I was kind of phasing out. He was in a tribute band that did The Who. Okay. So he and I are the only two guys here that have the LA mindset and how to approach the audience and entertain like that.
Yeah.
Only from that standpoint. His band is great. The guys are great. You're all, great players. And what they do is, Jay reached out. He says, come on, hang out with us, man. I know who you are. Come on." So I went up to meet them, and one of their friends, local legend bass player Scott Henry, comes up to me, hands me a Steeler album. He goes, "Can you sign my album?" That was my introduction to meeting these people. I figured nobody knows Steeler here. They know W.A.S.P, but they don't know Steeler. And
Right.
so they invite me to answer your question. Whenever they play and I show up, they all invite me up and I do a song with them, like either Poison song or Scorpions or whatever like that. And, so I play a song with them. And that's been the extent of my being able to play live, is whenever they're playing and the gig isn't too far away, because they play Lake of the Ozarks. That's like, an hour, 2-hour drive, on windy roads. When they play here in town in Springfield, I'll go see them play with them. Or they have a side project called the Panty Droppers, which is them and members from the other bands here, and doing pretty much the same material as Machine Gun Symphony. So I'll go up and they'll jam with them when they do that. Jay told me there's good luck trying to find somebody that's on your level here, because there's nobody that's can match your LA resume. There's nothing right out here like that. What you've done is going to intimidate people, because you performed with Ronnie James Dio a couple of times. You played with Sam Kinison. We were in W.A.S.P, with this, that, and the other. He goes, these people, they see that on TV. To encounter somebody who did that in reality, it's kind of like, wow, kind of shake them up a little bit or something. That they're not used to meeting people who've lived the dream. You see,
I think it's awesome too. I mean, I know everybody here tonight saying how much they're enjoying having you on the show and hearing all these cool stories, because they could only imagine what it was like, and you lived it and were there. So that's super awesome. I'm trying to look for the Sam Kinison pick here while you're talking, because I did see that. Now, you actually played in his band. I know Sam did the Wild Thing. Steven was in the Wild Thing video along with Motley and Robin, a lot of rockers. Were you in that video too? I can't remember.
No, I wasn't in the video. What happened was Sam's guitar player was Randy Hansen. He does the Jimi Hendrix impression, that show. So my manager at the time, Ken Rubin, when I had Thunderbolt, there he is. That was at the gig. That was at the China Club in the early 90s. I got a phone call from my manager. He goes, "You want to jam with Sam Kinison?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Get over to the China Club now." This was in the afternoon. So I went over to the China Club, and Randy introduced me to because we did shows together. Randy introduced me to Sam, and I'd seen Sam partying with some of the other rockers, from a distance. I never wasn't introduced to him at that.
Sure.
So he says, "Hey man, you want to play the early show or the late show?" Yeah, I'll play. So I'll play the late show. And he said, "So he came over and gave me a hug like that in the picture." And so I'm waiting downstairs in the green room, and the set starts, and they're playing. So I run upstairs, and Jimmy Bain was playing bass. So
Wow.
he took my spot because he's Jimmy Bain, and the guy was 3 sheets to the wind. He was pounding him down.
Jimmy was buzzed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. And so the bass tech knew me from the LA scene, and he looks at me and he looks up. He goes, "You're supposed to be up there." I said, "I know. I don't know what happened. Nobody called me." So he goes, "Wait a minute," and they finished the song they were doing. He runs over, grabs Jimmy by the shoulders, brings him to the side of the stage, unplugs him, and sends him down the steps. Grabs me, plugs me, and he goes, "Go." And at that moment, Sam turned around. He goes, "Yeah, all right, ready to go." Yeah, let's just. And we launched. We did Wild Thing.
Nice.
And this was another ultimate pinch me moment. You ready for this?
Ready.
Randy Hansen on guitar, Jean Beauvoir on guitar. And if you know who that is,
I don't. Who's Jean Beauvoir?
Jean Beauvoir. He's African American guy with a blonde mohawk. He produced the Ramones. He's huge. He's huge in the industry.
New York guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Real big. So he had this big blonde mohawk, which contrasts against the dark skin. He is on guitar. Randy Castillo was on drums,
Sweet.
and John Goodman from the Roseanne Show.
Huh?
A very drunk John Goodman was playing blues harp.
Right.
And it was a keep. Oh, and Little Steven from Bruce Springsteen's band. So we had all these guitar players, and I'm looking over to going, this can't be happening, you know. And I'm playing with these guys, you know.
Yeah.
And it was a keyboard player, Robin something. I don't remember who he was, but we did Wild Thing. There was a million cameras flashing. It was like looking at the stars in the sky, and I don't have one picture of us live on stage together.
Was this after he had done the video for Wild Thing?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now he had made this like a regular thing in Hollywood. Whenever he was there, he would do Wild Thing, get however many famous people he can on stage and make a whole scene out of it.
Whoever was available like that, you know, because the guys in the video were not available. So
now, Rick, I'm getting the impression like you didn't really party as much as the other guys in the scene. Like you weren't really as big of a drinker, right? Is that the vibe I'm getting or not?
I had my moments, but I didn't. It never became a problem with me.
Right.
You know, I was able to control, you know, a little of this, a little of that, and you know, it never overtook me.
Right.
You know, I could sit back and go, you know what? There's more important things to spend money on than that.
No doubt.
When you do that, that's gone. You got nothing.
I couldn't afford a cocaine habit as a struggling musician.
Well, people would come to our shows. You know, when I had Sin, we had a guy that would show up with a little Anvil road case, you know, handle briefcase, and he had a little portable bar in there. He had a bottle of Kahlua, and he'd get a container of milk, and we do like Kahlua shots, and he also had, you know, a little gram or two bottles.
Was this milk refrigerated? Because I'm getting bubble guts just hearing this.
Yeah, it was. He had it refrigerated. You know,
Robin Crosby had something very similar. I get to hear, of course, Piercy's stories, and he also had like I don't know if it was handcuffed to him or not, but he had like a party briefcase. He took like a serious business partier that had like all the drugs in it. It sounds similar.
Yeah, we get fresh milk, or you get milk from downstairs from the bar. You get a bottle of it and bring it up to the dressing room. So we had our party moments, you know, and my guys partied and they smoked pot. I was not a pot smoker. So, you know, I had to deal with the mentality of once they're high from smoking pot, you know.
We get some wacky ideas as potheads. We're getting some compliments tonight, Rick. Scuff here through 20 my way. It's a great interview. Thanks for the memories. So you're taking these guys back in the time machine. And Marsha B, we did she's my super carrot, one of my biggest supporters here on the show, and she of course asked about were you involved in the W.A.S.P name, and you did in fact cover that. He stepped on a wasp, didn't kill the W.A.S.P, everybody don't panic, he didn't kill it, took it near death, but said, hey, that would be a cool band name, brought it to Blackie. And yes, Blackie denies this, but if you ask Randy, he'll verify.
You know, that's done a lot of damage to me in the industry, because, you know, power attracts power, and Blackie has always been in the position to be believed, and he's got a silver tongue. He knows how to tell the story and make it plausible. And then people would go up to him and go, Rik Fox, he was in W.A.S.P, and of course Blackie would deny all of that and say whatever it is that he says, and it make me look like, you know, like I'm a liar.
Right.
So subsequently, he's got thousands of fans who don't believe that.
Sure.
You know, so I had to deal with that.
Also, you know, I totally understand the, you know, keeping that, you know, 4 months. Oh, well, in the grand scheme of things, 4 months might not seem like a long time to a lot of people, but 4 months of your life in a year, when you're putting all this effort into something, it means something. I still today say, hey, I played in the band Earshot, even though I had only was on the road with them for about 2 weeks before they let me go, because I was being a pain in the ass because they weren't paying me. But I had already put in over a month of rehearsals into it and all these things, and money and time invested in learning the material, doing all that stuff. So I still to this day will mention that I played in the band, even though I didn't play on one of the records. I did a little bit of touring with them, and that'll remain on my resume just for that reason. I'm not going to deny that I ever played it. I was there. It didn't work out for whatever reason. Same thing with Bow Wow Wow. I would say this is Lee Gorman's Bow Wow Wow. It's just kind of just a bass player's version of the band. This was in the 2020. I still put that on my resume, even though things didn't work out in that regard either.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Stephen Piercy Band has spoiled me from all gigs at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's taken such good care of me. I am very fortunate and lucky to have, you know, ridden his coattails for all these decades that a lot of people, they had a taste of it, you know, at some point, but didn't get to really dedicate their whole lives to it as I have. So I don't take it for granted. I'm very fortunate to have this life with him. But I didn't get to be in the 80s. And that's why I just love hearing you tell these stories tonight and just taking us back to the Sunset Strip. Now, you stayed in Hollywood all through the 80s, or did you? Where were you at after Steeler? Let's take it from you went back to Sin.
What I was going to say is here's the kicker: if I didn't come up with the name W.A.S.P, and if I didn't exist in that band, what would Blackie have called it? What would that band be known as today? See,
sister-in-law. I don't know.
That's great. Let's see, where were we? So after Steeler, again, I was still, even though we'd been headlining, I didn't get out and meet and greet a lot of people because I was living in Venice. So I didn't have a way to get up to Hollywood and hang out like that. So when I did, I would try and, you know, people were introducing me to somebody because I was with Steeler. So now people are, oh, who's this guy? Who's this guy? And so I was kind of, you know, I guess a commodity. I don't know what else you'd call it, but being introduced to various musicians. I didn't want to lose any ground. And so I wanted to put another band together while I still had some traction. And that's why I was meeting people I was being recommended to. And the guys I was introduced to didn't really have that big of a track record in LA either, mostly unknown guys. And so I didn't have a proper process to vet and screen people. I just was taking people on recommendations. Okay, he's okay. Oh, you like Angel? I like Angel too. And so I wanted to put together a band. It was like Angel meets Judas Priest, Uriah Heep, that kind of, you know, roots kind of hard rock. And what we wound up doing is we I got a keyboard player and then we got the drummer from a band that I knew, and then a guitar player who never played out for anybody, a new guy, but he was a Malmsteen fan. And right. I was getting all these guys that were Malmsteen fans contacting me going, want to put a band together? You want to put a band together? Who was it? The
neoclassical guitar movement.
All these guys are coming out of the woodwork. Chris Impellitteri.
Right.
Fantastic guitar player. I love the guy to death. He and I got together. We were jamming for, you know, several weeks, and nothing really developed. I just kept finding myself going, I've already done that, Chris. I want to do something else.
Right.
And I don't want to sway him from his path.
Sure.
You know, he has what he does, what he wants to do. And so we parted as friends, you know, and like that. We're still friends. But I just couldn't. I wound up getting a guitar player that plays like, you know, classical, like Malmsteen. So I'm back into that, and then I've got where we got the singer from. Anyway, so we were able to headline the Troubadour right out of the gate. It was packed. Everybody came to see. Oh, let's see what Rik Fox has got to offer this time.
Right.
Wow, these guys are good. You know, I mean, we played a couple of warm-up dates in Phoenix, and thankfully we did because it really helped. And then, so they didn't know what we were going to call ourselves. And I said, listen, I think I'd like to use the name Sin again. And they were all against it, adamantly. No, you had a band in Jersey, in the East Coast called Sin. I said, yeah, but they don't know that out here.
Right.
I said, no, we don't want to use that. I said, look, I'll tell you what. Since this thing is I put this band together, guys, I don't want to remind you of that, but I do have a say in this. I said, I'll give you 2 weeks. If you can't come up with another really cool band name, then we're going to call it Sin. They said, all right, fair enough. Yeah. 2 weeks came and went. Well, guys, anything? Zippo. Nothing. I said, well, guess what? Sin it is. And we booked the Sin, and we played all these huge gigs, Perkins Palace, Troubadour, this place, that place, Country Club. We sold out the, and then 6 months down the line, I got a buzz in my ear. We're going to kick Rik out of the band and steal the band name. These guys didn't even want to use the name Sin. Now they don't want to give it up. After 6 months of doing really big shows, I already had trademarked, service marked the name and the logo. And they wanted to bring in a manager. I don't know who she was. I didn't know anything about her background. And therefore, they're pushing me to sign a contract with her as a manager. I said, you know what? Let me just take it to a lawyer and let me look it over. Now Rik Fox is the boat rocker. Rik Fox is the problem because he won't sign the contract.
Right.
That created all kinds of tension in the band. And then I hear one of the gigs, we took a break. The singer goes up to the bar. He's telling girls, we're kicking Rik out of the band. We're going to steal the name. Actually had the audacity to do this. So it came right back to me. And then we went into the studio to record what would have been our first album. And Bill Matoyer, great engineer. Bill was.
I know Bill.
Yeah, Bill was engineering, producing this thing. And it just came to a head. It was like Spinal Tap before there was Spinal Tap. The bickering, the egos, the arguing, the counter arguing. I said, this is not professional. There's no adults in the room here. I put my bass in the case. I said, bye. And I walked out to Bill. I said, I apologize for this. I'm very sorry, but you're a witness to this. I'm not going to be in the same room with these kids. And I walked out.
So this is during the recording session or something?
They were doing the first
first
what would be
demo?
our first album. Yeah, our album.
Or first album. Okay. Now
Yeah.
Bill had done Slayer, right, at this point? Or
Yeah, he'd done a lot of stuff for Metal Blade.
Metal Blade.
So
Okay.
what they did was they tried to replace me, going back to Rat, with Joey Chris Finelli.
Chris Finelli. Okay.
Chris Finelli. They tried to replace me with him, and he didn't have any of my bass tracks down. So he was kind of like learning as he was recording, I guess.
Right.
Like that. And because they were insisted on using the band name that they didn't want, now I had to go legality.
Right.
And I was introduced to Stan Diamond, who was the attorney for Ronnie James Dio and Black Sabbath. And I presented him all the information, and he sent them a bunch of cease and desist letters.
Right.
And all the clubs were booking Sin and Sin. I said, we can't have that. That's an illegal competition like that. Right. And I would have to go back to all of the newspapers in LA that had all of the columns booking, all the bands. I said, they cannot use Sin. Here's the legal paperwork. So They're like, well, what do we do? I said, that's not my problem. I own the name Sin. So they had to change the name. And it led to a big, stupid weekly fight every week in Music Connection magazine. There was a letter from them, then it was my letter, and then a letter from them, and my counter letter, and it was this bickering back and forth. And
did they get lawyers involved too, or you had Stan? Luckily, you knew Stan, so we could write you some letters at least.
Yeah. He told him, drop it or else.
Right.
And so that's how the name Jaguar was born, and they became Jaguar. And they were still released the album. It shipped 5,000, 3,000 were returned. But one of my song "On the Run" is on there. That I give some credit to the guitar player.
Okay.
Like
I heard something that I don't know if you were aware of this, but I guess before SoundScan happened, the way that the record business would work, they would the distributors would go to these record stores, give them like 100 albums, then give them another 100 albums for free, but they had to scan it as a sale, so that basically what I got out of it was it would look like bands sold twice as many records as they actually were. And it just reminded me of that when you said that the records got returned and this and that. It was just.
Well, I was in contact with the head of the company. I forget the name of the label, but the ones who were shipping the albums out, because when it came to royalties, for my song that's on the record, we had to
Right.
talk, a business. And he said, well, I shipped 5,000 copies and 3,000 got returned. So they only sold between 1,000 and 2,000, and so they eventually broke up. They did some shows, they broke up, because when you cut the head off the body's going to die. I had all the creative ideas, all the creative input. I was doing their hair, I did their makeup, I did their clothes. I was doing everything, including being the bass player, like that. And so, and I've got tapes and stuff burned on CDs of us rehearsing of our shows. No problem in the rhythm section. Me and the drummer were pretty tight. The drummer was Carl Elizondo. He was a big Cozy Powell fan.
Okay.
And as a bass player, I'm a huge Cozy Powell fan. I love Rainbow.
Right. Yeah.
So we would lock in, bass and drums like Cozy and whoever was playing bass in Rainbow at the time, either Bane or Daisley or whatever, and like that. So there's no, people would say, oh, we kicked him out of the band because he can't play. Yeah, but then we always go back to the product. Well, I don't hear anything. Do you?
Right.
It ain't the rhythm section.
Saying sometimes it's a more stylistic thing that can't play. It doesn't sound like you ever had a problem playing. If anything I've heard so far has been a stylistic thing where you're actually wanting to play bass and they just want something holding a frequency or whatever.
Well, that was with W.A.S.P.
Right.
But after that, I was pretty much free reign, except for excuse me, the Steelers songs were already written, so there really wasn't much I could add to that without that it wouldn't be a Steelers song. I mean, I'm not gonna write Geddy Lee bass lines in a Steelers song. That doesn't fit. The problem we have with Yngwie.
Got to play for the song, man.
Exactly. Thank you. And that's what I did. I would put a little walk here and there when I could, but it wasn't detrimental to the song, like that. So, and looking back, I find myself, most of the bands I was in, except for my own, I was replacing somebody. I replaced the bass player in Steeler. I replaced the bass player in who else? I don't have this list committed to memory. I remember going over this. There was all of these bands that I played in. I wound up stepping in and replacing.
Now, Rik, would you say that was because Hollywood had so many people to pick from compared to like Missouri or something? You're not going to have. You got to hold on to your bass player a little longer in Missouri than in Hollywood. There's just so many people there trying to make it. It's you could afford to like let people go quicker or something, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I put the feelers out. This is back when I was still living in LA. I would jam out a lot of stuff in my office at home, and I was getting into this mindset of UFO. I love UFO, and I just put it in Facebook. Boy, I'd love to jam with somebody who plays UFO. And I got contacted by a guitar player who had a UFO tribute band called Strangers in the Night. Alex Marcherson contacted me. He said, we're having problems with our bass player. The guy drinks, he changes, he doesn't play the song the same way twice. You want to come and jam? I said, sure. I learned about 8 or 9, 10 UFO songs. I went over his studio, and we just, like I did with Ron, one-on-one. We just played together in his studio. He says, this sounds great. I'd like to bring you in and jam, play with the rest of the band, which I did. I don't know if you call it an audition, but we got a room over at what's that place in Burbank? Nightingale.
Okay.
Nightingale Studios over. Yeah, everybody rehearses at Nightingale in Burbank. And so I played with the whole band. Did like their whole set. And they're called Strangers in the Night because what they did was they played the whole Strangers of the Night live UFO album from top to bottom, front to back, in the same order. So I learned the whole album, both sides, all 4 sides. And we played, and they're like, Alex goes, so what do you think? You think Rik can do it? And they're like, yeah, I mean, they liked the guy that I would be replacing. They were friends.
Sure.
But he was not cutting it musically with the band.
Right.
And it was getting frustrating. So I got the gig in Strangers of the Night. Now I'm playing UFO stuff, and I'm having a blast. It's fun. And Pete Way is one of my, my idols, like that. And so that led to doing a show. We were somebody in Orange County did like a British rock night, and they had Child in Time, which was a Deep Purple tribute band. They had us. They had a Black Sabbath band or something. So I looked up Child in Time because I love Deep Purple, and I listened to, I watched some of their videos, and these guys are pretty. And the singer looked like Ian Gillan, in his prime, like that. And so I started adding them to our ads, saying, "Hey, these guys are on the bill with us. Come check." And the singer saw that. He goes, "Wow, that was a nice gesture of you. Thank you." And then I don't think I saw them with their bass player. He reached out to me and he says, "Hey, listen, I saw you with the UFO tribute band. You want to? Can you meet us at Nightingale?" I started to smell something, so I went, "Okay." I sat in my office. I learned about 8 or 9 Deep Purple songs, and I show up at Nightingale, and they want to jam. They want me to jam with them, and it felt great. The guitar player was great. It felt really good. Singer dug it, and he says, "All right, can you leave the room for a few minutes?" I said, "You want to talk about me behind my back? Go ahead." I'm joking with Andy. We laughed. So I left the room. A couple of minutes, he comes back out, brings me, and he goes, "We have some shows committed. They're booked, but we don't want to do it with the bass player we have, even though he was one of the guys that helped co-found the band. There's another guy with a drinking problem."
Right.
So I'm starting to notice a pattern here.
Yeah, the common denominator, folks. Don't become a bad drinker. You'll lose your gig.
Yeah. So they said, "We got some gigs. We'll pay you." I said, "Oh, that's even better." So I stepped in and I did a couple of shows with them, like $80 at the end of the night. Oh, that's
not
pretty
bad back then.
That's righteous. This is just around 2018, 2019. And then the Child in Time offered me the gig. He said, we'd like to have you if you want to be in the band. I said, "Wow, I'm in the UFO band and Deep Purple. It's either nothing or everything, feast or famine."
Right.
I said, "Yeah." I took the gig, and I actually played together on the same night. I played with Child in Time. Then I go in the kitchen, change my clothes, and come back out with the UFO band. So I got
Rick's doing double duty.
Exactly. I haven't done that
Awesome.
since I can remember, and that's a lot of stuff to learn. So, that worked out well. And then the UFO tribute started to phase out a little because there's 3 or 4 UFO tribute bands in LA.
Right.
So, a lot of them were getting, the Orange County was booking those guys down there. So I just stayed with the with the Deep Purple tribute with Child in Time. And it's a different kind of music. It's a different approach, a different mindset. It's not rock and rolly like UFO. It's a thinking man's music. It's serious. You got keyboards. I'm doing Roger Glover, Glenn Hughes, Nicky Semper, who was I think the original bass player in Deep Purple. So I'm covering all of these different genres of bass players, and I'm finding that they're bringing me into these bands is because I bring something to the table that was missing. I think that's how it was explained to me. They said, you have the flash, you have the ability, you look good, you play good, and the guys we have just weren't at that level. So that was what was missing from the equation.
And you're a true fan of that music, so you're putting your whole heart into it because you care. It's means something to you.
Yeah. And so, I got contacted by a guy out of Buffalo, New York. This guy puts out all-star albums. He has all these stars jam on his albums. And some are covers, some are original. Jim Crean.
Oh, I know Jim.
Yeah, he reached out to me around 2019, and he said, "Listen, I've been seeing you getting bashed all the time in Facebook. People are just slagging you left and right. I'd like to help put an end to that if I can." I said, "Oh, what do you got in mind?" I said, "I don't know you. Who are you?" And he told me about Hair Nation, his band Hair Nation, and he sent me all these CDs with Mike Tramp, with all of these stars on these albums he does. It is, "I do these all-star things, and I'd like you to play on an album." I said, "Great." So he sent me the material. He burned it on CD, all the pre-production stuff. I had plenty of time to write my own bass lines to him. And then when I got 2 songs on the London Fog album. We were going for 3 because I wanted to play on the song with Chris Holmes, but Mitch Perry got that. I played on Broken, which was like the main song of the album, and then I played on we did an Angel song with Frank Domino singing, co-singing with Jim, and both songs had Vinny Appice on drums.
Right.
So I got to do the rhythm section with Vinny, but nobody's in the same room with each other at the same time. These are all files. Everybody's sending files back and forth like that. So I guess I channeled my inner. I don't know. I'm listening back to the bass lines I did on Broken, and it reminds me of Bob Daisley, because at the time I was listening to a lot of Uriah Heep, and Gary Thayne was a huge idol of mine. I love Gary Thane's bass playing and Uriah Heep, so I was kind of copying that style, and then I tried to adapt it into the song that Jim Crean sent me, and went, wow, it works. So I'm playing these melodic walking bass lines, and as a bass player, one of the first things I listen for is if there's an ascending or descending line in the song, I want to play the contrapoint and go opposite.
Okay.
So as they're ascending, I'm playing the descending bass line. And when they descend, I play the ascending bass. We cross each other, and that's exactly what I did in Broken. And it's got all these pretty little melodic walks. And there's a break in the middle of the song where the dynamic comes down. And Robbie Lochner was playing lead guitar on it.
Okay.
Like that. And so, he was the most loudest instrument on the song. But I hear where he locked in. Anyway, so that's what I did on Broken. I played this Bob Daisley-ish type of bass line in there. And then what's the Angel song we did? Not Don't Leave Me Lonely. It was anyway, I learned Felix Robinson's bass lines it was off of the Sinful album. And then when we got the file, the keyboard player, Steph Hond, who's out of France, he plays guitar and keyboards on the project. He changed and readapted the song so it wasn't the way I learned it. Now I had to, on the spot, adapt and relearn, worked around what he had rewritten into the song like that. And so that worked. So, again, somebody was nice. They reached out. I got an opportunity, and I got, some more stuff for the resume and like that. But it didn't really stop anybody from slagging me. We did a lot of promo on it. I did a lot of promo on that for the album. Everybody's like, I don't know who this guy is. And he's asking me, do you know any other stars? Can you get any more stars to help me with I contacted Billy Sheehan, JJ French, Richie Ranov. And they're like, I don't know who this guy is. Never heard of him. And I said, well, he's putting out these albums. And I'm like now the go-between guy. I'm explaining what
they didn't know who Jim was. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
No.
Yeah, I knew Jim just from playing his town, but I mean, he's got a great voice. I just saw him doing the Dio thing at the Coach House not too long ago.
He does the drum wars with Carmine and Vinny.
Right.
And he can sing like Dio and this one and that one. So he's got a really talented voice. Yeah, talented voice. But, I think Carmine said something like, Jim, you're a great singer, but outside of New York, nobody knows who you are. And it's here's me trying to explain to everybody on the West Coast who this gig I got, playing with this guy.
I think, I was going to say, like, musicians kind of know who the musicians are, but fans are kind of a different story sometimes. Yeah. I'm more known by the famous guys than maybe the public in some ways, in a weird way.
Yeah.
Just for playing with Steven. But
the album came out. He was going to do an album release show at the Whiskey. I was going to play with him. He told me, he puffed me up, gave me a lot of smoke up my skirt, and you're the guy, you're going to play the gig, yada, yada, yada. And then he came to the coast, didn't contact me, didn't phone me. He took pictures at Vasquez Rocks, which was down the street from where I lived. Not even so much as, hey, I'm in the neighborhood, can I stop by? And they came and they did the show with his bass player from, his band from Buffalo. And so I got, erased out of that. Why? I don't know. Nobody would say. He was there at the Rainbow having dinner. I'm trying to reach him. Like, Jim, it's Rik. Are we playing? Am I playing with you tonight or what? I don't know where I'm at. And so like, Jim will talk to you later. Click. So
it's cutthroat, man. The music business is cutthroat. I mean, I still see all this stuff. When I got the gig for Piercy, I hung on to that with both hands. I'm like, I don't want to parlay this. I don't want to stepping stone this. And I'm so glad I stepped with it because I probably would have been in 100 bands over this point that all of them would have ended just like you're saying. Now, you're wearing a very special hat tonight, okay? And everybody's been waiting, I know, to hear the Wayne's World story. And first, I gotta say, this is the dopest. I want to hear who dressed you for this. If this was your own clothes, and where I get something like this, because for the Fright Bite, I think the Count needs a
That jacket I'm wearing represents when I had Thunderball and the band was living at my apartment. They were at the point now where they could go out to the clubs by themselves, like the Cat House or Rainbow or whatever. I would stay home and I'm working in my bedroom on costuming or songwriting, or I'm listening to the playback on the cassette for Gypsy Brandy, and I'm trying to write lyrics to it. That jacket was just a denim jacket with white fringes, and I had this box with all of these scraps of leather. So I glued them because they were too thick to sew. I glued them into place, and wherever I could, I pushed studs through them, the nail head studs like that. And that's when the casting went out for Wayne's World. Penelope said, "Don't wear anything black. This takes place in the Midwest. Nobody's wearing black. It's colors. So don't look like you're from LA." So I said, all right. So and because she had me in Decline of Western Civilization.
And I skipped that. I feel bad. So Penelope Spheres, you had done Decline of the Western Civilization, like how many years before was that? From
maybe a year or two, maybe three.
What year I forgot what year Wayne's World even come out. Was that 1990 or something, or
something like that? Yeah.
Okay, so Decline was 88, 89.
Yeah, she didn't give me any lower third screen credit, like when Ozzy would talk and say Ozzy Osbourne, when Gene would talk and say Gene. She didn't know that much about my background to say, Steeler, Wasp, whatever, like that. And so she kind of, I guess the way she put it, she goes, "I felt bad. I didn't give you any credit on that." So when we're filming the club scene, and the band finished playing, and I hear, she's got a megaphone. She's like, Rik Fox, where are you? I know you're in the building. I need you over here. And everybody's looking at me going, "What did you do?" I said, "I don't know. I didn't do anything." So I went over to her. She's, sitting in a director's chair. She goes, "Oh, come here." She goes, "Listen, I'm sorry about Decline. I want to make it up." She goes, "I'm going to put you in the scene with Dana Carvey." I was like, "Oh, cool."
Wow.
So she explains the scene where he tries to get through. I go up. The guy the bully is a stuntman.
This guy on the left. Yeah.
With the flannel shirt.
Okay.
The Seattle looking guy. He was a stuntman. And so she says, "Let Mike Myers through and his entourage. Dana will be last." She goes, "Just kind of block him. Don't let him through. You're like digging the band, you're watching the band, but you just block him." That gives him the moment to go, "Excuse me, I'd like to get through now."
Right,
and
right.
She says, "Do your thing," and just kind of like you're watching the band and kind of just walk out of frame like that, which is what I did. And now there's plenty of room for him to get through, but he's still with the bully saying, "Can I get through?" And that's the setup for the bully tossing him.
Right.
And then he comes back with the big oversized stun gun, and he stuns him, and he flies through the air, and he lands actually at my feet. I'm now about 10, 20 feet further down in the scene, and he lands there's a whole crowd of us, and he lands right on the ground, right at our feet. But that was the setup for that. And so, I got my cameo, my 15 seconds of fame on the screen.
So initially you were just kind of going to be a background guy at this thing. And then all of a sudden Penelope calls you up, go, "Hey, by the way, I know you got dissed here without having your name on Decline."
Well, Penelope used to hang. It was a whole bunch of us on Sunday afternoons. There was at the dog park off of Holly. Was it Sunset? There was a hillside. And all of us from different bands, didn't matter if you were punk or new wave or rock, and we all hung out at the dog park, and we'd have rock and roll barbecues. My roommate at the time had a half of a shopping cart from a supermarket with half of the basket gone, and he'd go up to the top of the hill, and we'd ride suicide rides down the hill in the shopping cart. And Penelope used to hang out with everybody, just like she was one of us. You know,
Wow.
she dug hanging out with the guys from Danny Stagg and JB Frank from Kingdom Come. We all hung out, and she was friends with all of us.
Right.
So that's kind of where, you know, she said, well, let me get you for this. Let me get you for this. She knew all of us, you know, of
Right.
us, you know, musicians on the scene. So I just happened to be, when we finished that scene, I was a background extra like everybody else,
Sure.
you know, and then Tia Carrera finished singing her song. Her drummer was Anthony Fox.
Right.
And Anthony was in Tommy Gun, and I got a call, a casting call for Alice Cooper's video for Poison. My manager's brother worked with Ricky Rackman, Keith Cooper. Keith says, "You want to try for an Alice Cooper video?" I said, "Yeah." So we went over to Cole Studios, which I helped build Cole Rehearsal Studios on Cole Avenue, and it's like everybody in town was there. It was a cattle call, and they would do the playback. And I brought Anthony with me. I said, "Come on, help me. Let's go do this Alice Cooper thing." So, you know, we're you know, playing like we're on stage, playing, performing, whatever. Anthony got the gig. He's the drummer in the Alice Cooper Poison video. The reason I didn't get the gig, I've heard later, Alice said, "That guy reminds me of Blackie, and I hate Blackie."
Oh no!
I reminded him too much of Blackie. He had the similar hairstyle.
You did look similar. I mean, kind of at the time. You're better looking though. You're totally better looking.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
That doesn't mean we're going to date, but thank you. Anyway, I didn't get the gig for the video like that, but Anthony and I, you know, his name is Fox, my name is Fox. He spells it different, but we've been really good friends like that together for a lot of years. So he got the drummer gig in the Wayne's World band with Mark Ferrari, and Penelope was dating the other guitar player. That was her boyfriend at the time, like that. And
were they just miming? Were they miming for this?
Oh yeah, yeah. Just like when you record an album and you go to do the video, you're miming to the playback.
Right.
You know, we did that when we did the new Steeler video. Same thing, playback over the house system, and you just go, you know, like that. So I did the same thing for 2 songs with Freak Show, which unfortunately didn't work out. But yeah, it's the same thing. He's just miming to the album tracks.
Right. Well, we know Elias, I was going to say, has a kind of a similar deal with the Rockstar movie with Marky Mark.
With Mark, yeah.
Which I did ask him a little bit about that recently, just about his memories of that day. And what he basically told me was one of his coolest memories was that Mark was trying to do like a method acting thing where he actually went around in the wig and hung out and wanted to hang out with everybody just to get into character for the movie. One thing that made me think of Rockstar was when they had multiple Judas Priest cover bands, and you were kind of mentioning that there was when you were doing the cover thing, there started to be more UFO groups and stuff, and that kind of made me think of that movie a little bit, the competition between the cover bands and what have you.
It's hard for me to watch that. That's one of several movies that my wife and I loved. We loved those movies.
Right.
The scenes where Jennifer Aniston's got her hair done up and she's all rocked up, and it looks just like she looks like my wife, because my wife had, depending on what day it was and how she wore her hair and her makeup, there's pictures where she looks a little like Jennifer Aniston.
Right.
So when I see Jennifer Aniston, you know, and it had that relationship she had with you know, Mark in the movie, it takes me back. It's a trigger thing. It reminds me of that.
It's a tough watch. Yeah,
it's a tough watch. Yeah.
Gotcha. Oh.
But here's another word. In the 50s, when my dad got out of the Navy at the Korean War, he got into broadcasting. He went to CBS school and all of that. He got a gig putting up his own radio show, WGBB on Freeport, Long Island. And he had a jazz big band swing show, you know, and he would play the records and he would interview the stars on the air like that. My dad's engineer, if you remember the old radio shows, they had the big glass and the engineer was on the other side of the glass with all those controls.
Yeah.
My dad's engineer was George Savalas. I don't know if that's
Telly Savalas is he's
bingo. Telly's brother.
All right.
My dad said sometimes Telly would come in and help George co-engineer my dad's show.
Who loves you, baby? Do you want me to co-engineer anything while I'm here?
Well, the kicker is, my dad says Telly Savalas is Jennifer Aniston's godfather. What a kick in the head that is.
That's
And
awesome.
I had a wife who slightly resembled Jennifer Aniston. I would love to meet Jennifer just to tell her that story, just to watch the expression on her face. But again, there's all these little dots that are weird in my life that connect for whatever reason.
Maybe we're in a simulation, dude.
It's the Twilight Zone, man. Look,
you know what? I want to
another-
go back and talk to some of the people in the chat because I've neglected everyone tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I got no. It was, you know what? The last thing I want to do is interrupt you. You know what I mean? I'm not really an interview show either. The only reason why I asked you to come on is because we knew each other, and I know you have such a cool history. And I go, you know what? We're friends on social media now too, and I know you're a patriot. It's the cool dude, and you were a great interview tonight. And I just wanted to kind of let you go and take everybody back. I don't need to do much talking here, but I do like to. I'm kind of known for keeping my chat room, as part of the show. So I'm just gonna fly some comments in, and we'll see what's going on. Spicoli, who got into a car accident yesterday. He said he's talking about my gambling. He said, "Yeah, son, you got to cash out." I was telling him that I'm a successful gambler. As soon as I ever win something, I cash out right away and I get the hell out of there.
Yeah, I never got into that one, man. That was. Again, it's too tricky wasting money on gambling.
I'm not into wasting money. I'm not a producer's son. I'm not a trust funder. I got to be very frugal. I never dine out hardly. I cook all my own meals. So I'm with you. Rik Fox was in W.A.S.P, dude. Yeah, we talked all about it tonight. If you're coming in late, you get your W.A.S.P fix. He kind of took us back to the early days where these guys were just like sleeping on floors trying to make it. Dale Hap, hey Eric, beauty solo you played on You Should Know By Now in Lincoln, Rhode Island. Yeah, I'm still working on that. That's a Robin solo. Some people get bummed that I still write that I'm a lead guitarist in Steven's band. I go, hey, I've assumed the Robin role, and he was considered a lead guitarist back then, dude. They both played leads. They both played the double leads. Therefore, they're both lead guitar players.
They both played lead. Yep.
Now, LA Styles saying, Eric, my YouTube feed is flooded with new AI songs from Rat to W.A.S.P. You just about every 80s band. I'm curious, what is your opinion on this issue? Well, I'll say personally, I don't like it. I know people always go, hey man, check this out. They send me anything having to do with Rat, and I kind of just roll my eyes. I'm polite to everybody that sends it. Yeah. I've of course heard some interesting mashups where they'll take like a 80s band and mash it up with a Motown band, and it's interesting.
Yeah, those are interesting.
But I mean, it's the devil's AI as far as I'm concerned. I don't want nothing to do with it. How do you feel about AI, Rik? Are you just like, it has no place in music? What are your feelings on the subject?
I remember having a conversation similar to this with my dad years ago when synthesizers were becoming the big thing.
Sure.
And keyboards. And my dad's going, oh, there's all the jobs for guitar players are going to go out the window. Everything's synthesizers now. I say, no, there'll always be rock and roll. Those guitars aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So they stayed with, but there's always going to be some new trend or something that's going to come in, a novelty that's going to catch everybody's attention and hook them in and get them either get them hooked on it, or they'll know enough to walk away from it and say, "No, it's."
I think you hit on something there too. The getting hooked on, it's an amazing technology, and they kind of just like a drug dealer let everybody get a sample of it. You know what I mean? And they haven't been charging. Now all of a sudden, Suno or Suni, I forgot what it's called. They've changed their terms of service starting in 2027, and then the whole Wild West that it was up until now is over with. They're going to own everything that you ever did through their website, and they're only going to allow you to have access to a certain amount of songs per month. Like the rug pull is in, and now only the real mofos are going to survive this. I think another thing you mentioned that I will touch on is it is a fad of sorts. If you talk to the younger generation, Blas Elias is one who brought this to my attention, but like his kids, for example, that are teenagers, they want nothing to do with AI. They are so over it. These younger kids I'm talking about, they like real organic stuff. And they love all our toys from the 80s, all these gadgets we used to have and all this.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think it's going to be short-lived. It's a fad, and the real rock is going to rise above it.
Now, again, AI is also being used in many other fields, some of which are alarming. You know, they're the potential to do very bad things exists. Like with anything, you can use it for this or for that. So that's something we really have to keep our eye on. Don't take your eye off of that piece of the chessboard,
Right.
because it's some of my friends and fans, and they'll take pictures of me, and then they'll convert them into an AI picture, or they'll try and touch it up and make it look like this, or put it in a different background, like a live gig or something. And then, like, this happened recently, and then my friend Daniel Ferrara, he took one of my live shots, and the AI changed all of the patches on my battle vest to like unintelligible. You can't even read what it is.
Right.
And she did something to the fretboard. It made the frets look weird.
Yeah.
And another friend of mine, an artist, Jeff DeBurry, took that picture, not knowing that it was an AI picture, and put it into he does like this internet type computer painting. He can take a picture and it looks like it's a painting, and he put that picture in the painting, and all of a sudden, all these guys are going, "Well, it's AI, it's AI." They're all angry. Well, what are you getting angry at? I didn't make it. It's not mine. And I went back to my friend Daniel and I said, "Here's the original picture that you used. I want you to take a look at what the AI." He goes, "Oh yeah, you're right." So I sent him the details and data points, and he actually went back and refixed the vest. He refixed the base and he refixed the fret markers and all of that, and sent it to me. So now I sent it to Jeff. He goes, "Yeah, as soon as I get some time, I'll take the revised picture and put it back in the painting and take the old one out." I'm like, because people just get hostile over this AI stuff,
Russell Lindez, he thinks you're in an apartment, but I think you're in a house. That looks like a house to me.
It is a house.
Those aren't apartment doors. Come on, Russell. But anyways, he thinks you have a cool pad there, unlike my fake AI pad.
Yeah,
but you got your life behind you there. All your bands on the wall.
Steelers stuff and bands I played with. My amps are. I don't know if we can see that.
Yeah,
there's my amp. There's one of my stacks back there.
Man, my bedroom looks like similar. I have to do this because it hides what's really there, which is just stacked to the ceiling guitars and amps, and it looks like Sanford and Son's front yard.
Green screen.
I had to use it just to hide the mess, sir. Del Hap saying he makes custom pick guards, and he has an SG full guard that would look so sick on my Ebony SG, bro. I'll send you some pics your way later on FB Messenger if that's cool with you. Of course you can. I'm always down for that. I might even pick up some more SGs, and then I'd like to soup one up, and we'll see if we can make that work. Spicoli saying, "Hey Rick, thank you for keeping rock and roll effing alive, brother. We salute you with several horns."
Thank you, Spicoli. Thank you very much.
Skylar's he was the one who asked about if you were in the WASP at the same time as Steve Riley. You were not. Was that right? Right. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah.
And they, of course, said rest in peace, Steve Riley. I got to meet Steve when he played for LA Guns. I guess this is another connection. 2005, WASP did a tour, and it was WASP, LA Guns, and Stephen Piercy. And so it was a crazy time. That was probably one of the first big tours I ever did back then. I had a great time, partied my butt off from there. But I did get to meet Steve Riley. He was a great guy back then. Rest in peace. Fred's saying you have a good 20 years or so in. I think Steven will be the oldest rock star still singing, almost 100. Yeah, I always bring up Alice Cooper, Rick. I love seeing him get old. I mean, because he's going to be 80. I just watched the guy play with Judas Priest. He puts on the same show to the same level that he was doing 20 years ago. He kind of raises the bar for everybody. What do you think?
I was in his fan club in 1972 when Killer came out.
Yeah.
That's
That's
how far
so
I was. 72 was a breaking year for me for rock and roll, and it was like the rabbit hole opened, the floodgates open, and it was like all of these bands, Alice Cooper being one of them, made a big impact on me. So I've been watching him since way then
right.
till now, you know.
That's my
And now,
birth year, by the way, 1972, baby.
okay, I did get to talk to Alice at when they were shooting the Poison video at SIR, and I talked to him at the Cat House, and I told him what I told you about the reason when I did I said I auditioned for you, and you said the reason I didn't get the gig was because you hated Blackhead. He goes, "Oh man, I'm sorry." And I said, I lived across the alley from the Cat House. My apartment building was right there. So I said, "Can you sign one of my records, my Alice Cooper albums?" He goes, "Yeah." So I went and got it. I brought, I had the first album with the woman lifting the skirt up like that. And he writes on it, "You're too young to own this."
That's hilarious.
So
Ronnie
yeah,
Brown's saying a blonde and a brunette both wearing the Rik Fox shirts. Where can I get them? I'm not sure what they're seeing there. They're saying two girls wearing Rik Fox shirts. Is there Rik Fox shirts they could buy somewhere?
I have some from some. I had some merch made when I was doing the Rockin' Pod Expo. It just says it's a Sin, Steeler, Thunderball, or Wasp, something like that. I don't know if I can put Wasp on it. I haven't looked at them in a while, but yeah, I have some Rik Fox shirts.
Do you have like a website or anything you're running currently or anything?
I have a website that I really don't know how to navigate through it. It was set up for me by my friend Steve Talbot, and even even if I have the passwords, every time I go in there to do something, I mess up something, and I have to ask him to go back and fix it for me.
What a pain! Well, they could find you on your social media though, like Instagram, Facebook. They can hit you up for something like that. If you want a Rik Fox shirt, you can ask him how to get one. I'm sure he'll sell you one.
Put it in an envelope, and you know, I got pictures I can sign. I got guitar picks, and you know, a whole bunch of Rik Fox merch. Well,
that's pretty dope. You hear that, everybody? Go head over to Rik Fox's Facebook, to his Instagram. You want some Rik pics? Come on.
But I can't. I don't do Venmo or PayPal. I'm old fashioned. It's like send me a check.
Send me a check. Mail you a check, baby.
Mail the check.
Indie Power TV, salute to Rik from Steelers manager J Rock.
J Rock. Yep. He managed Steeler before I was in the band.
Wow.
He does a great program with Indie Rock, and he also interviews a lot of big stars and stuff like that. Yeah.
Kevin Smith.
Shout out.
Kevin Smith's a big Steeler fan. He thinks the first album is fire.
It's pretty hot. Yeah, it is.
Coley 420 saying Exciter. Yeah, bro. You were there for everything, son. They're impressed that you were just, you know.
Yeah, that was the band, as I said earlier, George Lynch and Mick Brown had when I was playing, when I was rehearsing with W.A.S.P. Yeah.
So you got to see all these guys come up. These dudes that you were partying with on the scene. Next thing you know, they're in some of the biggest hair bands of that. Well, we didn't call them hair bands then. They were just just heavy metal bands, right?
I did get to record with Mick Brown when I was in Surgical Steel. When I was in Surgical Steel, '87, out in Phoenix, and George Lynch was living in Phoenix at the time, and so Mick was visiting him, and we were in the studio. We were in El Chaton. By Camelback Mountain, we were recording what would have been the Surgical Steel album, and George and Mick showed up, and we were trying to figure out this one song. They didn't have a drummer who could play it, and so we played it back a few times for Mick. He says, "All right, I can do this," and never having played with Mick before, first time face to face in the studio, and I think we did one pass, and then we did a record. And we nailed it. It just was nailed. Perfect.
Nice.
And we were done. And this meant a lot to me. Mick stands up. He goes, "I don't know why people say you can't play." He goes, "You're just as good as Jeff," meaning, Pilson, which is a big honor for me,
I'm used to this too, by the way. I mean, actually, Jason was the one kind of started a lot of that, putting that out there that I suck on guitar and all this stuff. I think it's funny. You know what I mean? I know how good I am. I was there. I play it. I mean, Stephen Pearson could have anybody play in his band. If I sucked, he wouldn't have me in his band. But people still say these things, you know.
You know what? You know what, Eric? Blowing out someone else's candle doesn't make yours burn any brighter.
Thank you. Exactly. Jojo Crawdaddy saying Rik is so cool. Everybody copied his name and just started adding extra K's and X's.
I have the most misspelled name I've ever seen.
So Spicoli saying School Days is effing awesome. He's talking about the album School Days. Okay.
Well, if you hear the original version, you know, the W.A.S.P demo that I recorded on, it's totally different from the album version. And Randy Piper is singing lead on it.
This is the W.A.S.P demos you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Rik, if you come across these and you find the link, if you could like post it onto my socials to like so people could hear this, and I'll make sure it gets on to the comments maybe of the show tonight, because I'm sure people will be interested to hear these versions if they haven't.
Absolutely.
Dal Hap saying pedal tone bass is what Blackie meant. Pedal tone bass. I'm not sure.
I don't know what that is.
Means. Oh, a pedal tone. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he's saying what kind of bass playing he was looking for. Probably, perhaps for a sound. I guess
he just wanted simple, straight notes.
Spicoli saying he's the dude that stole her car, son. He was talking about his car accident, I guess. Okay. Chris Kruger's in the house tonight. He remembers Blackie driving a very cool Jaguar E-Type around Hollywood.
That was after he got signed and got money. Yeah.
And he probably bought it used, from what it sounds like.
It could. That's very well could be.
Spicoli's back. He wants to know, Rik, what was the mood in Hollywood when you first heard Van Halen? Do you have any cool stories? You did mention seeing David Lee Roth and how starstruck you were in '82, which Diver Down was already out by that point, right? I mean,
yeah. The Van Halen I saw I guess it was, well, they played, all of the first album, and they might have been playing some of the songs from the second album, which wasn't released yet, like that.
Right.
And I went backstage and I found David Lee Roth's towel and I went home with it.
Okay. This is gonna be worth something someday.
Yeah, look at all the towels here tonight.
Look at all the towels, man. Here we go. Spicoli wants to, hey Rik, when you heard Shout at the Devil, what were your thoughts about that insane album? And then I'll tell you my thoughts on it.
I think that was that album moved Hollywood, man. It's right. Like, once that thing came out, everybody was like, holy crap.
Okay, let me ask you, do you think that they actually did any satanic rituals to release this record, or it was just all shock rocky nonsense?
It's all shock. Nicky wouldn't go to that lane. There's no need to. I mean, he wrote good songs, great songs. The product spoke for itself. I got to see them do that show at Santa Monica Civic, with the new backdrop and everything that they had. It was incredible. Everybody was fucking out of their minds rocking with that. Shout Out the Devil was a great album.
It scared me. I mean, I'm younger, remember, but God, I think it was like fourth grade, and a classmate of mine had the tape and put it on, and that beginning, in the beginning, the blood, all man's sins, right? And I was like, oh. It sounded satanic-y when I first heard it.
Well, that was, again, everybody's a next generation student of Alice Cooper and shock rock, and Arthur Brown was another one. Crazy World of Arthur Brown and Alice Cooper. Each generation had its shock rocker like that.
Sure.
And so, I saw what Nicky was doing. I know a lot of his influences when he writes the songs. I can hear the hook. I know which song that came from, etc. and so forth.
Right.
And so, God, Shout at the Devil was such an impactful album.
It was,
and it just broke them right at and went right. They played the, what was it, the US Festival or whatever.
Right.
And they had to learn to adapt. A lot of us, you played on a little postage stamp stage in Hollywood. Then you're on a stage. It's like the size of a stadium.
Arena
You have
size. Yeah.
You got to learn how to work that area.
Totally.
It's
They
it's a whole-
rehearsed for so long. Even Rat, all these bands. That was the thing to do. You'd have to like rent a huge space, set up the stage, and spend like 2 months practicing all your choreography and moves.
Mhm.
It was a whole thing that was lost in the 90s, but in the 80s, that was like 75% of the show right there, was all the choreography and everything.
And if you got a singer like Steven, who's all over the stage, everybody's got to know where everybody else is at any given moment, so you don't collide.
That's right.
You got Juan doing his thing, moving back. You got to make sure his bass neck don't collide with Steven.
They used to Steven told me that they would always have to kind of keep Juan in check because he was always doing all the crazy moves, that eventually they made like a tape square. They go, stay in your square.
Malmsteen did that to his band members.
I love watching the old Rat Arena shows from like 84, 85, 86. I mean, it is incredible that the shape those guys were in their 20s, and just the command they had of the arenas back then was something to behold, as was Motley. And
if you watch that video when I played with you guys, if you watch closely what I'm doing, I started copying. I'm doing the Juan thing back and forth, and at some point when Steven came by, Juan had this thing where he would go up and over or down and under.
Yeah.
So you don't collide with the guy, because you see him coming in your peripheral. So you kind of like get ready and you move it down and around. So and
you got to do the poop scoop. The poop scoop.
All right, poop scoop.
I don't know. I made that up. No, he had the Wanacopter, the poop scoop. He had the scooch pooch, the scooch pooch.
Yeah,
where you kind of skip over a little bit at a time.
Yeah. And Robin had the swing, the gate back and forth. Him and
Right.
Juan would do that. And then there's a point in the show where Robin and Juan and Warren, all three of them got together like they did in the videos, and they would all do the back and the chorus line back and forth.
Right now our band's very uncoordinated like that. It's kind of like the Hot for Teacher video, and Van Halen's trying to dance and they're all not in sync. But the only time we kind of do something, we try to for more, we try to all kind of go to the front line at the same time. It would take some rehearsals to get actual choreography down. It was such the thing to do in the 80s. Then it was a big no in the 90s. I think it's kind of making a comeback a little, Steel Panther and these bands kind of doing the tip of the hat to those sort of things gets people excited again.
Some guys, some musician players, they're very not insecure, but they're uncomfortable moving their bodies to the music, interpreting what the music. I'm a field player, so I automatically start moving my body with whatever the groove is. Some guys just get hung up on that, and they find it silly, or
Well, those guys are boring, Rick.
Yeah,
they don't entertain me for an hour. You know what I mean? I mean,
exactly.
If I'm going to pay good money to go to a concert, I want to see people. I want to see you sweat, right?
Yeah,
I want to see some movement.
Going back to the show we did, if you watch the beginning, when Kirsty's got the camera on Steven on all the way on stage left, and he's doing the old rat thing where he's bouncing, he's doing the pogo thing up and down, and then before he works his way back onto the middle of the stage.
Steven still kicks and stuff. I mean,
does the kick. Yeah,
I love it. I can't even kick that high. I love that you guys are taking great care of yourselves. I think you look great, dude. Seriously.
Thank you.
You don't look like my grandpa when he was 70 or whatever. I mean,
you haven't seen me up close.
No, we see you. All right. Let's see. Tracy. Hey, girl. Eric, Tracy, and Christy here. Remember the rock you like a cocaine hurricane night in Fayetteville, North Carolina? You guys played at Chester's Pub. We partied on the bus after the show. And the bus was a rocking back and forth of the hurricane tornado. Oh, that's right. Okay. And we didn't know till we emerged from the bus. Well, yes, good times. I've had my fun. I mean, I'm pretty behaved these days. Now, I feel like I got all my crazy stuff out of the way. Now, when I go on the road, I just want to make it back safe. I just want with my money and get home and count my money.
It's great with the fans. that's like one moment in their life they're going to remember for the rest of their life. That means so much to them. Is that moment? It's like Chris Farley goes, remember when we did that? That was so cool.
Oh, right. With he did that with the Beatle, Paul McCartney, right?
Paul McCartney.
You
You remember when you played that Hofner bass? That was so cool. You know,
yeah, the Hoffman bass. Yeah.
It's fan enthusiasm. But it's cute. It's sweet.
That is part of the job. Having patience and just realizing that you have to know that this is really special for these folks, and they want to get a picture, or they want to, And then one thing I love about once you get out of California is how legit the friendships are with these folks. You know what I mean? I've been playing for Steven for 25 years, and I still have friends I met from the first tour. And every time we come to town, they're right there again. They're just true fans. And rock is just that way. Rock and roll never forgets, right? Or forgives. I forget.
I learned all of that from Ronnie Dio. He would talk to the last fan.
Right.
The guys on the bus are going, "Come on, we got to go." And he's like, "Wait, I got one more fan to talk to." It's moments like that make it all. What's it? Success is measured by the value you bring to another person, and to do that makes their whole life.
I think that's what part of Bret Michaels' success too. I mean, he's got that mentality too, always putting the fans first and everything, and that's kept him working so many years past the 80s. You know what I mean? You get that reputation of being a jerk or this or that. It catches up with you.
After everybody abandoned the Steeler Mansion, who do you think moved in there after we left? Poison.
Wow.
And that's how I bonded at first with Bobby Dahl at a Poison after party. And he says, yeah, he goes, that place and I forgot the name of the street. He goes, we moved into they said it was the old Steeler Mansion. He goes, we moved in there. And he goes, I got this one room. It has a raised area, like a train coach with a bed. And it was decorated real nice. I said, that was my room.
Nice.
The bass player, Bobby wound up inheriting my old bedroom at the Steeler. He goes, it was the nicest room in there. I said, yeah, because I took care of it. I decorated it. I made it look nice.
And then they would go on to open for Rat and get their break that way, which is pretty cool. It looks like Chris Kruger saying Kurt James replaced Yngwie and Steeler. So this must have been after you left.
He's one of the guitar players that after Steeler. I know who Kurt is. Actually, the two guys right after me and Yngwie were Mitch Perry on guitar and a bass player named Ron Murray.
Okay.
And they were playing Perkins Palace about a month after I was out of me and Yngwie were out of the band. And Ron didn't have his backstage pass on or something. And he went outside. And when he went to go back in, the security guy didn't believe he was one of the band members. And he slammed the door on Ron's hand and he almost broke it right before the show.
Man.
So, yeah.
Robin Crosby had something similar, not where he got his hand busted, but where he was like, I was playing maybe even the San Diego Sports Arena, but he was notorious for like leaving the arena to go party with people, the parking lot or whatever. And he couldn't get back into his own headlining Rat concert. Yeah. And it was late because of it. Let me see here. Fred Solo Pal. My wife Shelly watches your show with me and is impressed with the way you never disrespect your viewers and always respect them. Well, hey, I don't really got a show without you guys. Come on.
That's true.
Spicoli thinks that this next vlog I'm going to do with Joel Hoekstra is going to get 50,000 views, dude.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope so.
Yeah. So but Kurt James came in after. He was several other members removed. There was several lineups of Steeler for the committed shows. Bobby Marks played drums. Greg Chason also replaced me after Ron Murray in Steeler. There was this weird orbit with Greg Chason and I, in that he played in Surgical Steel and so did I. And he played in Steeler, and so did I. And so I this is another Twilight Zone moment. I played in Steeler with Ron Keel, And then I played in Surgical Steel with Jim Keeler.
Are you sure you don't smoke pot?
I'm telling you, man, it's Twilight Zone. But I look back at that. I'm like, how does that happen? You got Steeler, Keeler. Two different
Man,
bands, and there's that
it's
word game
cray
thing.
cray, Rick.
I'm
So
telling you.
Denny Frazier says, Rick, I was at the Sin Show in San Diego. Good times.
Oh, cool. So yeah, that was the show we did with Bible Black. Yeah,
Bible Black. See, I kind of remember Bible Black. I mean, I was, of course, didn't get my start till the 90s, but they were still in San Diego. We were still gigging in the early 90s. So I do recall that band. Thomas Bailey, it was the Disco Stars, I suspect.
Yeah,
I must have been talking about your outfit or something. Or
my Ibanez bass, yeah.
Oh, the bass.
Lots of call it the Prisms, the Disco Stars.
It looks like Thomas Bailey, oodles of noodles. Oh, well, he's talking about, of course, Top Ramen, or he's talking about too much notes on the guitar. I mean, we call that noodle.
Noodling, yeah.
Thomas Bailey never had money for food, but always found money for drugs.
Not me.
Johnny Ponder was in prison for 10 years and 2 months. He had a lot of ramen. Yeah. I would imagine in 10 years, you're going to figure out all different kinds of ways to eat your ramen.
Speaking of prison, who's in prison is Johnny Rod.
Ah, interesting. No, I didn't know what's going on.
Oh yeah, he did something not very good. He did some shame,
right?
With people
underage.
Who are younger than him. Yeah.
And
so poor Johnny's,
Well, hey, maybe Jason Green will get to be his cellmate.
Oh no,
it's possible. Yeah, Johnny Rod, I kind of met, in a second. He was friends with me on Facebook. Maybe, probably like 8-9 years ago. Then he kind of disappeared. I guess I know why now. I thought he just didn't like me or something, but no.
Yeah, we had a couple of telephone conversations. He was a really nice guy. He's crazy. He takes a walk off the map every now and then, but that's crazy Italian. You're Italians. You guys hot blooded. You get nutty and
right.
But yeah, he was nice to me, and so I don't hold anything against him. And this is too bad he fell into the trap, and there he is.
I'm kind of glad that I always kind of liked women my own age and like a normal guy, just I don't have
normal?
these issues.
What is normal?
I mean, I know, when you're, I guess, in your young 20s, a teenage girl or whatever, that might, whatever, but you should, as you're getting older, that 10-year thing should kind of at least go with you to where you feel too old to be going after some of these women.
I was 10 years older than my wife.
Right. Fair enough.
So if I met her when I'm 27, that means she would be 17.
But see, that's where I think it's okay. Like, not saying it's okay, but I'm saying 10 years, once it goes past that, that's when it's going to start getting a little weird, or whatever.
I mean, if it was any younger, it would be really cringy.
I'd be cringy, right?
But she was born in 65. I was born in 55.
Right.
So I mean, but
that works out later because men age a little better than women do, and sometimes that kind of evens out.
I can see that now on Facebook. Oh man.
So Thomas Bailey's saying Jason looks like Ichabod Crane from the Headless Horseman.
I can see that.
Yeah, I thought he looked like if you look up Elmo Phillips, the comedian, he's a dead ringer for that guy.
Emo Phillips, yeah.
Emo Phillips. Look up Emo Phillips and you will laugh your ass off because it's Jason Groom, 100%. Thomas Bailey said Johnny is a great guitarist, but he's a sword swallower. Well, Jason thinks that too.
Johnny Rod?
No, I think he's talking about
the other John,
Johnny or Miami there, Johnny.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I don't know him well enough to make that assumption.
Me neither, apparently. Johnny Potter, I will be meeting Steven again in 12 days. I can hardly wait. Yeah, the last two Warren DeMartini Piercy shows are about to go down. One's at Monsters on the Mountain. And then I think they're doing the Hard Rock in Orlando, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely, if you're a big Warren nut, fly out to one of these shows and catch the Warren DeMartini and Steven. I mean, hopefully these guys get together again after this, but for the near future, this is going to be the last 2 gigs you see of these dudes. So
I wish I could get a shot at that one.
yeah.
I mentioned to Steven, I said, if you ever pass this way through again, just, give me a holler, let me know. And I think he was the hint or the alluding to, I would be able to come up and play again with you guys.
I'm totally down with it because you're already past the audition. You pulled off. You think you're tough once already, and I already know you can do it. It looks like a Thomas Bailey saying Sam Kinison can actually hit really hard. He punched Blackie Lawless allegedly for calling him a racial slur. Have you ever heard that story?
Oh, I don't know that one.
I don't know if that's true.
Not too many people can punch Blackie and get away with it, but if you hit hard enough, I'm sure he can get the message.
He's a pretty tall dude. Yeah, Thomas would say Blackie lip syncs now in concert. I mean, he's always had the back in 2005 is the only thing I can speak on. I know that when they'd have their sound checks, everybody had to leave because that's when you're going to hear what gets piped in or what have you. But by this time, Motley was already doing that too with the girls. They kind of got rid of the nasty habits, real live singers, and had the tapes to blow in. And it definitely made the choruses sound stronger. I mean, I think Blackie was singing a lot of the verses and stuff. I don't think he mimes the whole set or anything like that.
Yeah, when Machine Gun Symphony plays, they have a lot of stuff that's taped. Like certain intros to like Guns N' Roses songs. There's only one guitar player in the band, so you're hearing two guitar parts. So they'll do stuff like that, or maybe some background vocals because there's only one guy, the bass player, sings background. So they'll just pad it up a little bit. But you know what? These people in the bars, they're drinking, they're having a good time. They don't care. They don't care. It's just as long as it sounds enough like what they heard it on the radio, and they're having a drink and they're in a good mood. They don't care about that.
I was watching Poison playing like must have been the mid or kind of later mid 80s there, and they were the TV appearances. They kind of made a lot of bands mime stuff or blow stuff in. Like they were actually blowing in a lot of CC's like lead stuff was coming in on a tape, and he was kind of just playing the rhythm to it. But I don't know.
I have the when they did the Joan Rivers show and Poison.
Maybe that was
David Lee Roth. I have that on tape.
Yeah, there was some. I mean, it was cool. There was a lot of TV shows that would have some of the 80s rocker guys on it. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Thomas Bailey saying New Jersey
rock, Jersey metal,
Jersey metal,
Jersey metal,
and the Jersey Devil too. Is there?
Yeah, I'm in three different bands in the Jersey metal book, so that's pretty cool.
That is freaking cool. Do you?
I don't know if you can see this.
Okay, let me see. It's a photo of you in a record office.
It's Motley Crue signing with Alan Kaufman.
Oh,
this is a Polaroid that I found on the floor in Motley Crue's apartment after they all moved out.
You're kidding me. They actually left that behind?
There was all kinds of interesting little tidbits.
Dude, that's probably worth something. I mean,
it probably is. They're
some
standing
cool
around.
stuff.
Alan Kaufman's at the desk. They're all standing around and they're signing the contract.
That's cool. He's got Nikki Sixx boots from Nikki Sixx. He's got a lot like a rare Motley stuff. I told a story how Steven used to give me some things, and I had no idea what anything was worth when I was a teenager. I was like seriously bad at that, and there was no internet, so I had nothing to really compare it to. He gave me the leather. It was kind of like a leather homoerotic disco hat that Steven wore on the Rat Unplugged. Like if you ever saw when they performed on MTV and did the acoustic thing, he's wearing it. And at one point, Steven's the kind of guy who just like Nikki, he would just give you stuff, the clothes off his back and move on to other stuff. And I remember Steven gave me that hat, and my head's way bigger than his, my size of my skull. And it just looked so stupid. I never wore it. I dragged it around all the places I moved. And finally, at some point, I think I just threw it in the trash. And that thing probably on eBay or something would probably be worth $400 or $500, I would imagine today. The other thing I have is from the video Giving Yourself Away from Rat, Steven was doing his Clockwork Orange kind of look.
Yeah.
And he had these fencing pads. So he had,
Okay.
I have the fencing elbow pads from that. They're leather and they're nice. They're leather fencing pads. And I do still have those. I actually kind of incorporated them into my early look in the 2000s when I was in Steven's band. I don't know, had a lot of like regalia or whatever going.
What was the video they did where they're in an airplane and parachuting or something, and the plane's going down?
That might be it.
I was working at the KTLA lot up by Sunset and Gower, and Rat was on one of the stages. They were shooting the video there, so I was hanging out with them while they were doing that. It's like everybody. Blotzer was always the point of everybody's joke. They always like did something to him at the end of the video, so like he was everybody else was something cool, and he got the shitty end of the stick. And there was something about them all bailing out of this airplane, and all their parachutes worked, and Blotzer bails out, and the parachutes don't work. So he was always the brunt of their jokes when it came to doing stuff like that. I can't remember the name of it though. It was a cool song, but yeah, Steve was there. Robin was, all the guys were there.
Got San Diego guy here, Nathan Anderson. Good evening, Eric. Good evening, Rick. Yes.
Do you have that picture of me and Ronnie that I sent it to you?
Of Geo? Yeah, you probably do. I will look for it here in a sec and make sure I grab it. Let's see. Snoop Van Poop. Funny moment. I reconnected with Steve Riley and Randy Piper. Well, we might want to hear about that. Hazmat. Hi, Rick. Matt Duncan here.
Odin.
Do you know Matt Duncan?
Odin. Thanks,
Is he from Odin?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so dope. So and Odin was in the Decline movie,
yes,
right?
They were. All the Duncan brothers, Jeff and Matt, and I think is Matt? He's playing with the Dre's and LA Guns right now. I think it's
okay. Yeah. Okay. No, he's super good.
Yeah,
I do know him. I know that Duncan.
I saw them at Rocklahoma because I'm friends with Johnny Martin.
Right. He's great.
So yeah, so we all hung out at Rocklahoma when I saw them there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Snoop Von Poop wants to know, was Todd Burr in Surgical Steel?
Not when I was around, no.
No. Right.
Greg Chason played in I think the original lineup, and then Jim Keeler fired the whole band, kind of like what Ron did with Steeler. There's another dot connection, and then I came in, and I did we recorded a part. We started to record the album, and then the financial backing fell out, so the album never got finished. And I did a bunch of shows in Phoenix. We did a main support for Lita Ford on New Year's Eve. There's another Lita Ford connection. We played with Lita Ford. And Flotsam and Jetsam were one of the opening bands back when Jason Newsted was still with Flotsam and Jetsam.
Well, check this. Did you hear about the Rainbow Birthday Bash that's going to happen on September 6th in the Rainbow parking lot? Stephen Piercy Band is going to headline this, but you're going to dig this, Rick. Sherry Curry of the Runaways is going to perform. Flotsam and Jetsam are also going to perform.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who I Hate God is, but I've heard of them.
Yeah,
but they're on there too. So I don't know, man. If you got any flight miles, you want to come party at this, maybe you have to come up and do. Do you think you're tough or something? I don't know, man.
It's tough for me because I got my cats, and one of them needs to get his thyroid medicine every day, like that. You. So I can board them for a few days, but I don't have a budget to fly to LA to party.
I got a girlfriend just to take care of that. Just because I need somebody to watch for the cat. So Brad Stoliker says he wants to know any Kurt James stories. Did you guys overlap at all? Did you ever? Kurt James.
Kurt James.
Yeah.
Kurt and I tossed an idea around once for like 5 minutes about doing a Steeler tribute thing.
Okay.
And then it just kind of went nowhere. And then he got hooked up with some bass player. I don't know who this guy is. And he starts advertising that the Steelers playing. I'm like, who is this? Kurt, is this guy with you? And this guy was advertising he was a new bass player in Steeler, which is like That's a big taboo. You don't do that. No. And
No, no.
Kurt had to get on top of this guy and say, "Knock it off! Don't be advertising that we're playing Steeler."
What do you think of the Ace Frehley's solo band going out as the Ace Frehley band? Have you seen that?
I actually am friends with Jeremy Asbrock.
He's great.
With Ace, yeah. We jammed at 2021 at the Rockin' Pod, so we got to play like I did with you. We got to play together.
Right. He's a great dude.
Really nice guy. I don't know what to think about it. I mean, that's their decision to make.
Right.
It's
tough. I mean, with Stephen Piercy, I think about it sometimes. I'm like, oh man, like obviously, I first thought my career's over when that happens, right? Except when Stephen passes on. But then I'm like, oh wait, I did write all his solo albums. You know what I mean? So I'm like, well, maybe perform just the solo material. You think about these things, but you don't know.
All of us legacy guys, we're all holding on by our fingernails, man. We're trying to get every bit of the mileage out of it as we can.
Yeah.
And God bless Steven. I mean, I haven't seen anybody tour as hard as him.
Right.
He's out there and he's constantly. And he's got Christie's helping him out, with the management and all of that, and perfect ace in the sleeve. When you have somebody working with you to bypass a lot of the obstacles and things like that, and she's doing a great knockout job.
Love Christy.
Yeah.
She's so great for him for so many reasons, but she cares about us. She cares about me, which I'm very flattered that he's got somebody in his ear that's like, no, he's one of the good guys. You know what I mean? Like, because in this business, as you've witnessed, it doesn't take much for somebody to go, oh, we could get this guy or we could get that guy. And, next thing you know, you've lost the heart of the band in a lot of ways. Let's see. Let me say this. DM Servio. Hey, Rick, you're playing rocks. Also, killer interview with Razor Fist.
Razor Fist. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was Razor Fist did a YouTube show about WASP and the creation of WASP and all this. And he had a whole bunch of data points that were wrong. So somebody sent me a clip of it. As people do, they say, hey, Rick, you might want to see this. And I watched it and I reached out. I tried to contact Razor Fist and say, hey, you know what? You're incorrect on this here, there, here. These data points are wrong. If you want to actually get the actual truth and the facts, if you want to, give me an interview or whatever, I'll do that for you. And he eventually saw the message, contacted me back, and we set it up. It's called Aftershock, I think it is, which is like a follow-up to the original presentation, where now we cover the facts of what the things that he missed the first time around. So that's a very good interview. It was one of my favorites. We get to talk about, WASP and Sin and Steeler and, a lot of stuff that I had done over my career like that. But that's nice that he saw the Razor Fist interview. That's
check out
cool.
Razor Fist. You can maybe, if it was something we left out, they scooped it up in that earlier interview. Lark Bark. Hello, everyone, and good evening. I just got done watching The Decline of the Western Civilization, Part 2, The Metal Years. Yeah, it's a classic.
What's funny is every time that movie comes on, if I'm hanging with Jay from Machine Gun Symphony, he's like my biggest fan. He goes, look, this Rick. Freeze the screen. There's Rick.
It was a big deal.
Rick,
he said they love Gypsy Brandy. Brandy.
Thank you.
What is that? What's Gypsy Brandy?
That's a song that I wrote about 95% of with Thunderball.
Okay.
And I'm very proud of that because it represents a high point as far as my writing style, because the working title for that before I wrote everything was called the Whitesnake Song, because I wanted to. I was watching Still of the Night was in heavy rotation, but I said I want to write a song like Still of the Night. I don't know how. I don't know how I'm going to do this, and I would tape myself playing bass for various parts, and I would take it to my roommate, my guitar player Joey, and I said, "This is kind of what I'm hearing. Can you help me with this?" And he would if I didn't know the technical terms for the chords and stuff he was playing, I could just talk it out and he would play. I go, that's it, that part there, that part there, that part there. And that's kind of how we wrote the song. And like I said, the guys would go out to the clubs, and I'm sitting there with the cassette, and I'm trying to arrange how this song is going to put the parts together and sew them together like that, and then write the lyrics, and find something that where the beats and the words match enough where it sounds smooth. I don't know if that's the right way to put it.
This is Gypsy Brandy. This is the making of
Yeah.
Gypsy Brandy we're talking about.
And I'm trying to imagine David Coverdale singing Gypsy Brandy, and our singer was Dale Thompson from the Kentucky Christian metal band called Bride. And we found Dale through Lucy Forbes, who was a promoter at the country club for all the metal nights. She had this clearinghouse where she would get musicians together for a fee, and like that. And that's how we met James Kotak when he first came to LA. And we got Dale Thompson from Bride, who wanted to step out of Kentucky and try something different. And so we got him, and he's more of a Bruce Dickinson kind of a singer. And when we played the Troubadour, we did Gypsy Brandy as our sound check song because it kind of just captures everything on one song. And Mark Ferrari was on the bill with Brunette and a couple other bands. And when we did that song, you know what the inside of the Troubadour looks like. That whole open area in front of the stage, everybody stopped. I was just like awe with the jaws open, listening to Dale sing. And after we did the song, Mark Ferrari comes over. He goes, "Where did you find this singer?" It's like every time we think Rick's going to fail, he pulls in another one out of his hat. It's like the next step level up like that. And so Gypsy Brandy is it's just, you know, I had a very good time writing it. I put everything I had into it, and I did most of the arrangements. Again, I told our drummer, I like Cozy Powell. Can you do Cozy Powell fills? No problem. That's typical Cozy, you know, his dumps that he does. We got that in the song. I've got a tip of the hat to Dio. And it's a part near the end of the song where it sounds like Rainbow in the Dark, because Joey's playing the passing tones, the chords, and me and the drums are going bop, 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 you know, like that. So it's we got that. And then there's a little tip of the hat to Guns N' Roses. There's a little hook and it goes ba 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 ba. It's like Paradise City, like that. So there's a little tip of that in there as well. If you know what to listen for, you'll hear it. But Joey, absolutely, he was like a cross between George Lynch and Michael Schenker.
Wow.
And to hear this guy solo to this day makes the hair stand up on my arms.
Nice.
You know, he played to the song so well. You know, like the bending, pleading tones that I'm getting the hair standing up on it already. It's just a great song. I don't know if you heard it, but I can send you a copy of it. And
yeah, send it. We'll share the link. That's Gypsy Brandy. Thomas Bailey's got the scoop on who punched who. No, it was the black guy. I'm assuming the one with the mohawk that punched Blackie.
I know who you're talking about now. I know who you're talking about. That I read that. I saw that in on YouTube. What the heck is his name? I know the guy who did that.
That punched Blackie. Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember what the outcome of that was, but I do remember reading that story. Yeah.
Now there's Stoney Jackson saying Rick is the original gangster, and he's loving all your stories.
I was just thinking of Stoney when he was saying that. He just sent me a friend request today. I got that up.
Stoney Jackson's a great friend of the show. He loves to promote rock music and the scene and everything. So he's definitely a stand-up dude to have on your thing. Eric, I was at the W.A.S.P. LA Guns and Piercy show at the San Diego House of Blues when you played in 05 or 06. That show sounded spectacular. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, it's been a long time playing with Piercy. I mean, I'm truly blessed. The last Willie Wayne saying last song by Rat Crosby had left. Cool song. That must be the one, maybe the parachute one you were talking about.
I don't remember.
Sure. Razor Fist is awesome. Very smart dude. Episcopalian, I think.
Episcopalian.
Okay,
this is religious persuasion. I don't know what reference that has to do with anything, but
they're all cray. Did I miss any super chats? Scuff saying, great interview. Thanks for the memories. I got jewels tonight. I don't even know what these jewels mean, but I thank everybody that hung. We really had a long interview. We're going to have to like do this again in a few months.
I have a tendency to be long-winded because there's so many stories, but I got some
Guilty.
good news. I got some
What's
good
that?
news. Metallic Blue Records, who is putting out the surgical steel material that I'm on, wants to put out my stuff.
Oh.
So we're looking at progress moving forward soon of putting out my Sin stuff and
Okay.
some stuff with Frankie Starr, which a lot of people have not heard. That's going to be on it, and then we're going to release some of my Thunderball stuff, some live performances on DVD. So people who have been waiting and asking over the years, when are we going to see this? When are we going to see this? We're on our way. It's the motion has started. Hopefully before the end of the year, but I should have some Rik Fox product out. Some for the fans.
Well, when you do, hit me up and we'll have you on and we'll put all the links so we sell some of that stuff.
Definitely. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. This was a lot of fun tonight. I think you're going to be like our go-to guy for like 80s night. You know what I mean?
Cool. I can live with that. I got a million stories. You
do. And no, I really appreciate you coming on. Like I said, I'm not really an interview show. You know what I mean? I'm just a channel that, kind of hosts the vlogs. And then I had to kind of start letting people hear my point of view on things and be able to respond to drama that was going on. But now I'm getting bored of that. I'm like, I have to start having some of my friends here to make this fun and really make it an Unleashed party. And you helped me succeed with that tonight, Rik. So I really do appreciate all the time that you gave us.
Thank you for the privilege of being on your show. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We will be in touch. I'm going to look up Gypsy Brandy. I'm going to look up the I think Rik sent me a link to the W.A.S.P demos earlier, possibly.
The school days, yeah.
Awesome. So I will go ahead and I'm going to put that in my comments under the on my socials, and I'm going to try to get that on the YouTube as well. And God bless you, Rik. Really, man.
Well, thank you so much, Erik. I appreciate it, and right back at you.
We'll be in touch with you, and absolutely, if we pass through Missouri, you're coming back up to do